Welcome back to another edition of Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We like to call it a freak flag. Feel good. Fake it till you make it. That's right, football. Ric Flair, 512 Friday edition of Ball Don't Lie right here on Ball Don't Lie. You can always hit us up on the Specs Text line, 512-337-3776. That's the number to the Specs Text line. Also, we got a lot to get into. The NFL Combine, the Freak Show. We'll get into it. Right now, the NFL DBs at the Combine are right now performing. They are competing right now in the 40-yard dash. We'll get into that coming up and give you all the updates. Also, we'll talk about Bijan Robinson draft odds. Those are out. We'll talk about how the Longhorns have done so far at the NFL Combine. The Cowboys, a lot of smoke about whether the Cowboys are going to make a move at the NFL Combine. We'll talk about that. The NFL Players Association team survey. Lamar Jackson once again in the news. We'll talk about the deadline next week for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. They got to figure out whether they're going to franchise tag him, the exclusive franchise tag. They got a lot of options, but we'll see what the Lamar Jackson rumors have to say about that. We'll get into that coming up. Nick Saban also upset about the possible SEC scheduling coming up. We'll also get into that, and we got a lot of other NFL news, notes, and nuggets to get into. We'll preview Texas basketball as well. They got a big matchup this weekend coming up versus Kansas. All of that and more. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew because he's the Ideallionaire on the show, one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. We don't know what he's paid. We do know he's underpaid. My man, Patrick Davis. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good, man. It's Friday.
It is Friday, TGIF, but also a football Friday because we got NFL Combine discussions to get into, updates on the Longhorns and how they have done so far at the NFL Combine. We still have Bijan and Rojo who have not performed. They will do that this weekend, but we'll talk about that and preview that. Also, Texas basketball, of course, big topic of the conversation because they do have a big matchup coming up this weekend versus Kansas, so we'll get into that. And also spring football next week, the start of spring football on the 40 acres. So we'll sprinkle in some spring football conversation. There's a ton of stuff to get into. I don't know if we have a ton of time to do it, so we'll start right now and just jump right into it. Okay, the Longhorns yesterday at the NFL Combine. DeMarvion Overshown, let's start with him. His adjusted time, because they adjust all these times, I guess, once they do get the accurate electronic digital laser time in, they adjust all of them. He's 11th right now, ranked among the 40-yard dashes for all the linebackers. He ran a 4.56, which was faster than his 4.59, which is what I think they had initially. So his 10-yard split was a 1.59, which is not bad, but it's not great. But he did what he had to do. A 4.56 is fast enough that if you go back to the film, you'll like what you've seen from DeMarvion Overshown. Broad jump was 10 feet 4 inches for him. That was 7th among the linebackers. He only had 15 reps on the bench, which was last, actually, among the linebackers. I'm not sure why his bench was only 15 reps, actually. I thought it'd probably be a little bit more, but this is a guy that's only been playing linebacker for 3 years, pretty much. As a freshman, came in as a safety and now has transitioned to linebacker. So if you look at the upside, maybe you can just talk about how I think his play strength is probably what that translates to, and then maybe you can look at the film and look at his ability or inability to get off blocks, which I think has been it's a big concern. I think he's gotten better at it each year, but as a safety working in space, that's not something that he naturally learned how to do as a younger player. He's only been playing linebacker, like I said, for 3 years. So I think DeMarvion Overshown did everything he needs to do. He didn't perform in a lot of the drills, so we don't know what happened. I don't know if I didn't hear anything about an injury, so knock on wood, I'm not going to put that out there. But he did not perform any other drills other than 40, broad jump, and bench. I didn't see any other times for the three cone, the shuttle, stuff like that. So maybe he's gonna do that. A lot of guys just skip that at the combine, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of guys. I got notes on a ton of guys who decided that they once they did the 40, they did the broad, they do the vertical.
They did the measurables, basically.
The vertical, yeah, they do kind of like the staples, but they don't do the 3 cone, they don't do the short shuttle, they don't do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so maybe he decided to skip that and do that at Pro Day.
You can tell because they're all numbered. So and the 40, it was linebacker 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And by the time you got to drill, it's like 1, 6, 9, 20. So I think a lot of the guys, especially linebackers, were opting out of that, I guess. they've been told that can only hurt your draft stock as a linebacker.
That's a good point. I never thought about that, but I bet if you look at more of the trend that you saw a lot of linebackers. Like I said, I got notes on guys, and I couldn't get a lot of those shuttles and the 3-cone. I think they decided, you know what? I do the 40, I do the vertical, I do the broad. That's it. Those are my 3 things. And I honestly, Moro Ojimo, he also did a great. I mean, honestly, out of all the guys who performed so far at the NFL Combine, Moro Ojimo's made the most money, increased his draft stock the most. He had 29 reps on the bench, 3rd among D tackles. He had a 9'4" broad jump, that was 4th among D tackles. 33-inch vertical, that was 2nd among D tackles. His 10-yard split in his 40, which is what matters the most for D tackles. You don't care. I mean, if your D tackle is running 40 yards down the field, you got a problem. I will say Casey Hampton led Texas in tackles from the D tackle position when I was there, but that was just because he was a freak of nature.
Yeah, I think you're running down the field. D tackle is best case scenario, fumble recovery or interception, and he is running blocking in front of somebody else.
Yes,
that is your best case scenario for a defensive tackle having to do a 40-yard dash.
So you shouldn't care that much about it. But the 10-yard split is supposed to show explosion from your defensive tackle position, and he was a 1.77, which was tied for 5th. Among the defensive tackles. So he's top 5 in bench, broad jump, vertical, 10-yard split at his position. His 40 was 7th among D tackles. Like I said, who gives a damn about the 40 for a defensive tackle? And he's only 21 years old. He was at Texas 5 years, only 21 years old.
Jeez.
He's a baby. So upside is tremendous with Ojimo. So Ojimo made a ton of money. I don't know where he is on draft boards. We'll have to wait till some of the speculation comes out. But that dude, I guarantee you now, a lot of scouts are going, all right, I got to go watch more Ojimo film. We'll check out what that guy's doing. And he played, what also helps him, 6'3", 280. He played on the outside at the edge, 114 snaps on the edge, 244 snaps on the interior. And there's a ton of film to watch from his earlier days to try to see how much he's progressed. So Ojimo made some straight cash, homie. Good for him. Really good.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, and for a kid like that who, it's going to be well known that he is a smart guy, too, that is going to bring some extra elements to your locker room, definitely helped him out to, hey, man, he can do it in the classroom and he can do it in the gym.
Hey, man, as Acho back in the old NFL, that would hurt you.
That's true.
Hey, on defense, they were like, an intellectual? You mean he's got options? What? He's got a grad. What kind of degree does he have? What, he's trying to get a master's degree? I don't know about that guy. But no, I'm with you. I think, I've talked to Ojimo before. I've met some of his family. Ojimo is a guy. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt when he's done with the NFL that if he's some executive at some Fortune 500 company, I mean, the guy's legit. He's the real deal. So I think Ojimo made himself some money. And like I said, you go look at even a lot of teams, they actually use the Pro Football Focus analytics. He's one of 5 Power 5 interior D linemen who was graded top 15 grades at pass rusher and a run defender on the interior D line. So even analytically, Moro Ojimo, he pops. Keondre Coburn. I mean, even going through these stats seems silly for Keondre Coburn, but he had 24 reps on the bench, 7th among D tackles. That's right where he needs to be. 8'5" broad jump, 10th among D tackles. He was 11th in the vertical with a 27-inch vertical. 10-yard split was 1.82, which is 13th among D tackles. His 40, he was 11th among D tackles, the 5'2". And I'll tell you why none of that really matters. Because in this year, by the way, Keondre Coburn had a phenomenal year. I mean, he was one of the best defensive tackles in the country this year. He really was. And Bo Davis, I think he gives a lot of credit to Bo Davis, but also I love the arc, the trajectory, of his, of his development, because he has gotten better every year, and he peaked right at his senior year once he had been under a well-respected and a guy who's got a ton of skins on the wall, a defensive line coach like Bo Davis, who just needed more time with someone like Keondre Coburn. Nothing against the D-line coaches he had before, but Bo Davis is considered to be one of the best D-line coaches in the country. And here's where Keondre Coburn is going to have value. Every roster needs a Coburn. They're going to need a Keondre Coburn. And what I mean by that is the NFL became obsessed, and they still are, became obsessed for a while with the zone blocking schemes. of the NFL, zone blocking scheme. So trying to stress a defense pretty much horizontally. And if you are a defense or a GM and you're building your defense, you're a defensive coordinator, you want to be able to defend that with guys who can run sideline to sideline. Why DeMarvin Overshown is going to be one of those guys who, in this NFL, if he develops the right way, continues to get better and increase his play strength, he's going to have a place in the NFL because he can run and he's comfortable in space. And the NFL is becoming a space and pace league. With that being said, all defenses being now constructed to have guys who can go sideline to sideline. Defenders are smaller, they're sleeker, they're faster, right? You're going to look like what you hunt. And NFL offenses are about speed and pace and tempo, and defenses are now being built around that. With that being said, the counter for that is when offenses decide to go, all right, if all these defenses are now built structurally and schematically to stop these zone blocking schemes with all of these, sideline to sideline defenders, let's just go power. Let's go gap schemes, power, counter. Let's go right at them. Just go and since they're probably undersized, they're sleeker, they're faster, but are they designed to deal with the brute force of the power running game? Most of them aren't. That's what Tennessee's built on. They just can't stay healthy. But when Derrick Henry's healthy, it's hard for any scheme defensively in the NFL to deal with it because they're built on just brute power and force. And that's the counter for a lot of teams. And you need an old school kind of run stuffing space, eating, double team, taking wide body D tackle. Old school guy to be able to deal with that. One of the old school D tackle. You need at least one on your roster. Remember, the Cowboys needed one too.
Yeah.
They had to go get Jonathan Hankins.
Yeah.
They had to trade for him. Man, we need one of them guys. The Eagles were a really good defense. They were sound everywhere around defense. They had to go get Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph after Jordan Davis, the guy they drafted in the first round. Freak, by the way, who won the Combine, who was a winner of the Combine a year ago. He ended up getting hurt because they drafted a guy just to play that role because they knew, no. In this day and age, we need to be prepared for the counter. When everybody's going zone blocking, and we're prepared for it, we can stop it. Our guys can run sideline to sideline, and they decide, we're going to go power. And then they can seamlessly transition back and forth between those two concepts. You better have a D tackle on the field that can eat up space, that can deal with the double teams, that can be just a space clogging, kind of gap eating old school wide body D tackle. That's Keandre Coburn. And you want added value with that guy. You like added value to go, I would love to not have to take him off the field every time there's a passing situation.
Yeah.
And that means give me a few reps where I can see you rush the passer and pressure the opposing quarterback. Coburn's got that this year. He didn't have it before this year.
Yeah.
This year he was a strictly early down situational D tackle, only built to stop the run. But this year, I will say, there's plenty of film of him actually putting pressure on the opposing quarterbacks and helping collapse the pocket.
Yeah, it's when you read the defense and you push it and you just go, okay, these guys are, whatever set they're in, I know I have to try and make an impact on this play. So if I've got a one guy who's going to try and pass block me and step back, am I just going to sit here and wait for the run? And I'm not, I can't chase the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fast enough to get him if he goes to the outside. So I better go straight at him and try and knock this. They put one guy on me. I should be offended by that.
Pretty much.
So if you think you can block me with one guy getting to your quarterback so you can run whatever other scheme you're trying to run, all right, I'm going to make you pay for it.
It's a numbers game.
And I'm going to make you put two on me every single time because I'm that big.
Yeah, and that's how you win a numbers game, right? If you got to put two guys on them to block them, then the defense can shift the numbers advantage in their favor. And to add to my point about the zone blocking schemes versus the powers and the counters and the gap blocking schemes, inside zones in 2021 and the outside zones in 2021 averaged. In 2021, inside zones averaged 4 yards per rush. Outside zones averaged 4.3 yards per rush. There was pretty much the same in 2022. 4.4 yards per rush for inside zone rushes. 4.3 yards per rush for outside zone rushes. This is in the NFL. The power, counters in the NFL in 2021 and 2022, Power run concepts averaged 4.2 yards per rush in 2021, 5.3 yards per rush in 2022. The counters, 4.4 yards per rush in 2021, 5.2 yards per rush in 2022. They figured out it is the counter. It is the power. The power is the counter to all the zone blocking schemes. You got to be prepared for it because that's what teams they know now. All right, if you can stop my zone blocking schemes because you're built and constructed to do so, how you do with the power schemes? And if you don't have one of these D tackles, you're gonna get shredded. Cowboys found it out. Eagles found it out. The best, I probably can go through and research most teams in the NFL, and you got to have one of these guys on your roster. And if you don't, you're probably just constructed in a different way. That's why Coburn's got a home somewhere. You got to have a Coburn on your roster. You got to have a wide body. Got to. You might need two. Hell, the Eagles had three by the end of the season. I guess Jordan Davis never really came back. Did he come back? I don't even remember. Did he ever come back?
I thought he did.
Maybe
he came back at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just don't really remember. Yeah, they were so damn deep. So they had three of them. But that's kind of the key to you being versatile and multiple and stopping, those zone blocking schemes. All right, we'll get to some of the actual, I just seen a guy knock down the laser timing device on his 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. It is randomly good drama, this NFL spin-off reality TV show that they got going on.
We've already got
here.
A 4.2 something that ran in the
We
DBs
do.
to do.
The Michigan cornerback, actually, I got it here because I went and looked it up because I heard that was some, I heard there was a
4.27.
A blowout performance at DJ Turner, the second. Sorry, I'll throw that in there. DJ Turner the second, 4.27 from Michigan. Then two Maryland cornerbacks both ran 4.31 and 4.35. They are second or tied. One is tied for the third, but they're second and third at the NFL Combine in 40-yard dash for cornerbacks right now. Both of their cornerbacks. I mean, that's crazy. That's a lot of speed. And now and if you're a scout, you got to go back to the film. You're like, did I miss those guys?
Yeah, you got to go back. I mean, if you play in Michigan, too, you got to do the advanced analytics on them and be like, what is his actual top speed in a game? He's running that fast.
Yeah, I would love to see, the GPS tracker to see, how fast he goes to keep up with guys. Like, how many deep balls did he get beat on? When I see that kind of speed, the first thing as a DB I think is, all right, I need to know how often he's gotten beat deep because there's no excuse for it.
Yeah.
Now, Rod B, who ran a, low 4.4 or, my best day is a high 4.3. Some guys, when a Steve Smith is going to run right by you, boy. Some guys have a different gear.
Yeah.
And this is the conversation I'll have about, because I will get into some of the freaks at the NFL Combine. What I realized when I got to Texas and I realized this a little bit in Houston high school football, but not as much when I got to Texas and when I got to the NFL. I think there are two different categories basically that I throw the football players that I played with and around and against the time that I played. And they were either football freaks or football geeks. I was a football geek. I'm not a freak. Physically, there's nothing really freakish about me. What I have, kind of like Liam Neeson in Taken, what I have is a certain set of skills that I've acquired over a long period of time that I've refined and cultivated that I'm damn good at. But I played with and against other football freaks, and I know that I can't do what that guy does. That guy, he can hit a speed that I can't hit. His hips can do things my hips can't do. He can cut in ways that if I did it, my knee would pop and shatter. You know what I mean? Like, certain guys are just built different, and you recognize that there are some guys who are just freaks. Now, if you combine the football freak with the football geek, then you end up with a guy who's an all-pro, and he's got a shot to be one of the all-time greatest in the history of the game.
Which is what Dallas is trying to do with Trayvon Diggs.
Yes, and Micah Parsons, right?
And Micah Parsons.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Trayvon Diggs is a guy, you're like, that first year, you're like, athletically, he's doing all this, he can jump balls, but he's very beatable.
Yes, because he wasn't into being a student of the game.
And now, second year, he's a little bit more of a student of the game, not getting beat as much. And now you're like, but now we have to have that same explosiveness you had that first year with the thoughts, and that's how you become
Oh, just comes you're talking about an all-time great then. Then you're on your path to being one of the elite class
Exactly.
of football players. And to your point about Trevon Diggs, this is a guy he's been playing DB now, I think, for 6 years now at a high level. And because remember at Bama they switched him from wide receiver to DB, and he cried.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban was like, "Dude, trust me, I'm gonna make you a lot of money. Don't." And he still cried. Thought he was sad about it.
How many men do you think Nick Saban has made cry?
Well,
I'm guessing it's in the thousands.
Oh, easily.
And I'm not even including people that he has beaten at football games and made them cry. I'm saying personally, Nick Saban has made cry.
Dude, the dude was born on Halloween. He is a demon. It's a demon spawn. But we'll get into Nick Saban later on. Actually, speaking of Nick Saban,
yes.
Nick Saban's complaining about something that's a year away. He's actually planting the seed. I guess it's a complaint seed, if you will, but he's planting it. He's upset about something. We'll get into that. But getting back to the freaks and geeks conversation in football, really do. One of the best examples was, first of all, I'm a great example of it. I don't mean to just throw myself into the conversation. But like I said, I was not an athletic freak. I could run really fast. I was fast. As you guys know, I didn't have great hand-eye coordination. Not the best. You guys know that. All right? Had hands like feet. And what I figured out is after I tried all the sports, tried baseball, got hit in the face with the ball too much, wasn't going to happen. This wasn't going to work for me. Basketball, you guys, I measured at the combine at 5'8" and I think 5'8" in like 3/4 or something like that. I was barely 5. That wasn't going to work. All right? And track was a sport I was kind of naturally good at because I was fast. And football worked because my speed could be an asset, right? It was something I could really use. It could set me apart from all the other football players. And I loved the game. Like I just had an affection for the game. I really did love the game of football. I loved to watch it. I played with guys in the NFL. They don't even watch football that often. They actually just watch it as a fan. They're like, oh, man, you watch the game? It's like, nah, man, I don't really watch football like that. Like, what? It's like, imagine somebody in their everyday life who's good at their job, but they don't like their job. I've met guys in the NFL like that. I know it sounds crazy. It is true. You're like, that's not true. Yeah, it's true.
No. In basketball, there's always those guys. They usually get weeded out a lot quicker because it's just there's not as many guys on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. But it's football. You can be gifted at something and not necessarily love it or be that into it. But I was really into it. So those are my two advantages. Because I was willing to study the game and become a student of the game, and I was really fast. And hell, now looking at it, I wasn't even that fast. Now looking at the guys who are working the combine now, like I was average fast, if that. I was average to a little above average fast. But I learned how to cover man-to-man. I had a knack for it. Could cover man-to-man coverage. That was my thing. Put me in man-to-man coverage, and I was pretty good. I was pretty good at it. I could cover man-to-man better than most cornerbacks in the country. I'd put a paycheck on it at the time. Like I was really, really good at it. Those kind of my three assets. That's it. But that's all you need sometimes. Sometimes all you need is to be good or great at one or two things, and then you can kind of refine and cultivate your craft around those specific traits and skills. And that's what I did. It ran out in the NFL. But I met guys who were exactly the same in the league. Dre Bly's the prime example. I played with Dre Bly. Dre Bly ran up 4.5 at the combine. By the time I met Dre Bly, he had love handles and he's a little pudgy. Right? He was not physically impressive at all. I would watch this guy, run with Randy Moss on post routes. He got to the point where he was basically Neo in the Matrix. And he loved to play off coverage. And while sitting back in off coverage based on the personnel package, the formation, the down, the distance, he could essentially start by process of elimination from his film study and research and preparation, started eliminating plays and eliminating concepts where basically he got to the point where I think they're going to run two or three things here. And I'm ready to break on all of them. And that's what got me into my football investigator. I called him a football investigator. I was like, man, you're a football investigator. He's a coach now, I believe, with Detroit. I believe he's coaching with Detroit Lions now, if I'm not mistaken. But the reason that he could run with elite a 4.5 or a 4.6, whatever the hell he ran, could run with a 4.2, is because of his football intelligence. And that's why Jerry Rice famously is a great example. A guy who at the combine ran 4.65 or something like that, 4.68 at the time. And then at his pro day, I believe he ran the 4.5s or something like that, but it didn't matter. Your football intelligence and your football acumen can close the gap between the freakishness. But this event today, the combine, it's for the freaks. It is a showcase for the freaks. It wasn't so much when I was there because it wasn't a made-for-TV event, but since it's become a made-for-TV event, it is for the freaks, man. It is a freak show. It is a Freak Flag Friday, and these are the freaks we're talking about. I mean, these are not freaky tales. And like I said, I remember going to the combine and having that same experience, like, okay, there's some freaks out here. I got to go, you had to go compete my tail off because there are some guys out here, they are physically just they're not superhuman, but definitely more evolved humans. I can't call them superhumans, actually. They're more evolved. And I played with guys. Quinn Jammer was like that. Quinn Jammer got drafted, top 10. Michael Huff was like that. Played with Michael Huff. I played with Nathan Vasher was kind of like that. Guys were just freaks. Honestly, Harge is one of those guys. You hear people tell the stories about Harge. Harge got offered scholarships in multiple sports.
Yeah.
To play quarterback at like Nebraska, play baseball here, draft. He's a freak. He's one of the freak guys. I was more of a geek because I had some like Liam Neeson, a particular set of skills that I had refined over a long period of time. But some guys, man, you recognize it and you see it and you go, okay. Yeah, that's a different level of athleticism. But the NFL is basically 50-50. That's the beauty of the league and the beauty of football. The league is basically 50-50, I'm telling you. It's a bunch of freaks, and then it's DeAndre Hopkins who ran like a 4.55, and then it's like, I can't guard this guy, and I run a 4.3. How is that? Because it's football. Right? I mean, essentially, DeAndre Hopkins runs like a 4.5. Why is he beating all these corners who run a 4.3? Happens all the time.
Hey, man, it's all about that and all about that burst and all
angles.
that.
And how often do you run 40 yards on a football field? Most of the time, it's 10 to 12 to 15. It's about the burst, getting out of your breaks, the football intelligence. I realized more and more that was it. To me, that was the key. And injuries are a big part. Honestly, your football acumen, your football IQ, and durability. Those are your two biggest, to me, your two biggest factors and variables in making it, what they call making a career out of being in the NFL. If you can do that, you got it. It's like how guys like P.J. Locke in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like from Texas, like that's how you do it. You know what I mean? It's about Adrian Phillips. You can go undrafted. That's why guys can go undrafted. That means undrafted basically means you're not a freak. Sorry, you ain't a freak. You ain't a freak at all. You know what? We'll give you a shot, but that's about it. How many undrafted guys make it in the league? The league is 30% undrafted free agents. 30%. Guys, the NFL was like, you know what? We pay millions and millions of dollars in this part of the sports industrial complex to evaluate this talent, and we missed.
Yeah, that's also why I'm like 90% sure Jerry and Stephen Jones are doing at the combine. Is only talking to guys to try and get them as undrafted free agents. They're like, we know we're going to pick whoever these guys, but we want to talk to all y'all that are going to be lower guys. And man, if you're undrafted, come over to the Cowboys.
Hey, and the Cowboys are really good at that, actually. They're one of the best teams in the NFL at getting great talent out of undrafted free agents. There's no doubt about it. All right, we come back. We're a little bit late for the break. We come back. We'll talk NBA on the other side. Kyrie and Luka combined for 82 points in a Mavs win. Is this the beginning of something special? We'll get into it on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. 512 Friday edition of Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. And that's where my man Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists that you can hear live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Loteria, and they're playing tonight at Hotel Vegas.
Oh, I like that. Okay, you know what? And I got bad mojo starting off the show, and I completely forgot about that. Texas says, Rod, we didn't get our woo after the Ric Flair today. It's not officially a weekend without it. Damn it! I apologize. I don't know how I forgot the woo. I apologize. All right, that means I got to do it all over just to start all over real quick. Okay, officially, here we go. It's a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! Football 512 Friday edition of Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. I apologize. I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's much better. Feels better now.
Yeah, my bad. I don't even know. That was weird. I don't know why I didn't give the woo. That was strange. Disrespecting Ric Flair like that. I might have cursed Ric Flair. If something bad happens to Ric Flair over the weekend, I'm never going to forgive myself. If I just Chad Hastings, Ric Flair somehow, I'm never going to forgive myself.
If that's how Ric Flair's story goes, plane crash, lightning strikes, all of that, alcoholism, no.
That's true.
Rod Babers.
That's a good point, Dad. A really good point. Add to our conversation about some athletes who don't necessarily like their sports, but they're good at them. Texas says Mike Tyson hated boxing. I can believe that Mike Tyson necessarily didn't like boxing, but he was good at beating people up, and he liked violence, but not boxing.
Yeah. No, I mean, like basketball, it's like guys who are like between 6'10" and 7 something. What would just be those guys that are like, yeah, I have to play I'm athletic at 7'1". I can be a millionaire doing this, so I got to play. But honestly, as soon as it is over, I'm done with it.
And there's so much pressure from your family when you're tall like that.
Yeah.
Family, when you go to school, the coach, it's like, you got to play. You got to play. And if you're good at it, it's like, all right, you're going to be playing.
Yeah. Especially if you're athletic and like built well enough. Yeah. I mean, even if you're not and you're 7 foot tall and you're just a gangly kid with no eye-hand coordination, you're still playing basketball in high school.
Oh, you have to. Oh,
like
no,
they're putting you on the team.
No, I'm serious. I'd be kind of punking them tall dudes. When I see a tall kid in high school, I was like, and I always ask him, like, do you play sports? And he's like, no. I'm like, what? Your coaches let you
wasting
walk.
it.
Your coaches let you walk around the hallway and not play sports. I would be compelling those young men somehow. You gonna play. You gonna play some sports. You gonna be on that damn field or court, whatever it may be. Someone also says here, and my man CB throwing it out there. He says, Rod, I remember back in your day, the scouts used to say that Texas had a fast track and guys ran faster in Austin than at the combine back when they would run in the weight room, not the bubble. Now guys run the 40 in the bubble. Yeah, I remember that as well. I hope you should have a faster track at your school than the combine has. The combine actually does have a fast track too, because they want it to be a fast track because
it's TV.
Exactly. The combine track may be as fast, if not fast. They want a fast track. The combine's not trying to screw you with the track. Oh no, they want a fast track. So I don't know. I haven't seen the surface over there at Texas in a while, so I really couldn't tell you. And I can talk to some of the guys and ask them, like, hey, is it a faster track than the combine? What's the word on the street? I didn't run at Texas. I ran at the combine. I wanted to run because I thought I could run a faster time. I ran a faster time than the 4.46 or whatever it is. But then my agent advised, like, yeah, you can, but if you run a slower time, just telling you, it's gonna hurt. All right. So I was like, he's like, all the scouts that I talked to said that's exactly what they needed to see. And that's essentially what all the guys out there, unless you're trying to win the combine, which, by the way, some guys out there are trying to win the combine because you can do it now. You can win the combine, and yeah, it will increase your draft stock, but you still got some guys got more to lose than to gain. Bijan's probably one of those guys. All right, let's talk about the NBA just really quickly.
Wait, can we mention
that
for your legacy of removing the last white cornerback in the starting white cornerback in the NFL, Riley Moss, I believe, has a 40 time of 4.41. White cornerback out of Iowa.
Caucasian corner.
4.41. Yeah, man, come on, man. Get back in the league. Bring it back.
Bring it back, baby. I'm all about diversity at the cornerback position.
I know. I just saw his 40 time come up, but he was out there. So he dropped it.
Deion would say he could run.
He can run.
he can run. Yeah. No, there's been like one or two since. Arkansas had one. That's somebody's trying to bring it back. I mean, I'm glad. I've always had some guilt about that.
Well, it's good. I mean, he's at the combine.
That's
so
good. He's legit.
He's legit.
I'm gonna do some research on him then. Guys know my fascination with the white cornerback because I basically was responsible for the extinction of the last white cornerback. It's partly my fault because Jason Sehorn, I guess they thought I could be the next Jason Sehorn. Not the case. All right, let's get to the NBA here. NBA news, notes, and nuggets. Just say a couple of stories. So the Mavs, and honestly, this is pretty amazing what the Mavs did last night. An 82-point combined performance between Luka and Kyrie last night. 82 points. I believe 82 points and 18 assists between both of those guys. Right now, they are the second most prolific combo in all of the NBA. Obviously, very small sample size. They have been together for, I believe right now, you're talking about 2 and 4 for 6 games.
Yeah.
I think they had 2 and 4, something like that. All right, this is the question I have, because now the Lakers they're not out of it statistically, but LeBron's not going to be back for a couple of weeks, so everybody assumes Lakers in the West.
Anthony Davis has already missed a game. D'Angelo
Russell
was supposed to come back tonight, I believe.
Yeah,
I haven't seen if he is or not, but I know he was supposed to come back tonight.
Not happening. So the Mavs, big win, 133-126 over Philly, but the big story was Luka and Kyrie combining for, like I said, 82 points. It was the first time that 2 Mavs players went for 40-plus points in a game, which was awesome. First time in franchise history for those guys. But I think what the question I basically have is, could this be the beginning of the spark for the Mavs? Because so far, they have not been they haven't been competitive. Let's just throw it out there. I guess they have, because a lot of these games have come down to the wire, but everybody expected when Kyrie and Luka got together that they could be some kind of overwhelming, dominant force, and that hasn't really been the case. They're just 2 and 4.
Yeah.
With Luka and Kyrie together.
I think this game still showcased a major flaw in this team is that
defense.
they don't have depth. There's no depth on this team, whether it's offense or defense, whatever it is. When this bench came in, like Dallas was running away with it with Kyrie and Luka on the court, and then Luka sat down, and then Kyrie wasn't really taking it over, and they sat down, and all of a sudden Philadelphia's back in, and it's a tie game. And then Luka comes back on, and they go up by 20 again. Like, they were dominating with the starters on the court. And, like, the plus-minuses look crazy on this game because basically every starter has a crazy good plus-minus, and every bench player has an awful plus-minus. Just because you're looking at it when the bench minutes came in and when Luka would sit down and when Kyrie would sit down, Philadelphia could defend them. They started to turn the ball over more. They started to do all those problems. And so you have to be able to figure out a way to get depth. I'm really surprised they have not tried to play any more on the buyout market. I don't know why you're not. This team is clearly not complete yet. I know you haven't figured out what you got, but you got to bring in somebody else at this point. Once you made that trade for Kyrie and you kind of went all in on that.
Yeah, why not double down?
Why not double down?
Yeah.
Like, go work out a Serge Ibaka and see if Serge Ibaka wants to come and go, hey, man, here's Serge Ibaka. Before his back injury, he was a good defender and could shoot threes. Let's see what we can do with him out of the gym and see if we want to bring him in as maybe some other help. Let's see if we can get another guard in there and that may be able to give us a few minutes of just not blowing the game, not putting up bad shots, not missing things. It was just a weird game to watch.
They still allowed, 76ers to shoot 57% from the field, 44% from three-point range.
Yeah.
Hard to lose a game like that if you're the 76ers, but the Mavs, it was really just because they had such an extraordinary performance from both Luka and Kyrie. It can't take that to win games every time.
Exactly.
They need a supporting cast, and they need better defensive effort overall.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the defensive, and again, it's effort is really like you just have so many guys that want to be offensive players and not play defense on that team. When Kyrie Irving is one of your few guys who will put in effort at points, that's not a good sign that Kyrie is leading the way of most of these guys. And then once your leaders aren't playing defense, it's not going to make a guy like Reggie Bullock feel like, hey, man, I really got to stick my neck out and play more defense. He's going to go, no, we're not a defensive team.
Trying to make threes.
Like, I don't want to get it sucks that I'm going on this end and I'm playing as hard as I can, and I turn around and someone's dunking behind me because I'm trying to guard my guy. Like, you have to have some more team effort in there. They're not getting chewed out. They're not getting anything. They need to figure out that, or else this is a first-round exit team.
Yeah, this is when the teams that can play both offense and defense in the NBA start to separate themselves. It's late here in the regular season. It's time to start getting to the playoff mindset And the Mavs, they can score with anybody. But, yeah, right now, their defense it's horrific. Like it's really, really bad. And I don't know if like I said, I don't know if they prioritize it. They can, like I said, they can outscore teams, or at least they can score with teams, but then they're not great in clutch time. We've talked about them having issues in clutch time between Kyrie and Luka, and who's supposed to step up and be that guy that's going to take the last shot. They've been together for 6 games, and in 3 of those games, they've had clutch time confusion. And inefficiency in clutch time between Kyrie and Luka when they're in games trying to win them. And in that game, they had 9 3-pointers in the third quarter alone. They had a 20-plus point lead in the third quarter. Everybody thought the game was over with by then, and that's when Philly was able to fight back. But Mavs get a win, a much-needed win for the Mavs. So we'll see if the Luka-Kyrie experiment can end up, starting to pay some more dividends. If it doesn't, then Kyrie's gone. That's the thing about it. Like, Kyrie's not going to stick around if this is not a successful experiment.
Yeah,
you got no shot to keep him.
And there's a question of who's going to pay him and who has salary cap money to pay you on a decent team. So we'll see at the end of the season where everything stacks
up. They just
up.
don't have a history of being able to.
Now they could do a sign and trade, but it would be a weird sign and trade of like, hey, the Mavs will get something out of it at least. It won't be Dorian Finney-Smith, but you may get. I just don't get once you trade for him and you're pretty much all in because hey man, we just gave up some really good young prospects to see if we can get this guy and draft picks to get this guy in. Maybe we should try and bring in another guy or two to fill out the roster. That being said, you can be the Clippers and bring in a bunch of guys, and then nobody cares. And boy, that team is a mess right now.
I don't know why they let Russell Westbrook start though. I thought
they're starting him and
bench.
Eric Gordon.
I don't understand why they didn't have him coming off the bench. He was coming off the bench with the Lakers. It's like what? Right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, I think their whole thing
they
was
need a point guard.
Our star players don't need the ball in their hands as much because it's Paul George and Kawhi Leonard who can move off the ball better and do. It's just I don't get it because you also traded for Eric Bledsoe and you're starting him, who is a ball dominant guy, and you also like Eric Bledsoe can at least shoot threes. Yeah, but Russell Wilson, Russell Westbrook, they just stepped back on him. Like, they just let him shoot threes, and he couldn't hit him last night. And Paul George couldn't hit him last night either.
Yeah, that's an interesting – there's a lot of experiments going on right now in the NBA.
Yeah, and then their entire bench doesn't want to play because they just got basically all these young guys who are like, cool, well, if you're just going to play Russell Westbrook and put us in this situation where our playing time got cut even though we were a better team and we were playing better than these guys were – sorry, I was saying Bledsoe, Eric Gordon from the Rockets. But, like, Covington and Powell, and they trade for Bones Highland too, who's another guy who doesn't want to share the basketball and had problems when he was in Denver. Just the construction of this team. Terrence Mann played a bad game. They shot 2 for 4. But Russell Westbrook shot 0 for 5 from 3, 3 for 12 in the game. Paul George 1 for 8 from 3, 3 for 15 from the game. Not a solid stat line. And Paul George will play better. Russell Westbrook won't. That is what he's going to shoot if he's not laying the ball up. He has not been a shooter in a long time.
It's very strange, for them to make that move. I don't know why they were motivated to do so either, because they were rolling before that. Too.
They were doing well,
I thought they needed a point guard.
They needed a piece, and they traded Reggie Jackson. And I know they didn't want him, but like he's better than any of the point guards they have right now.
Very true. Yeah.
And yes, CB, I agree. The Spurs are in very much trouble of going on a 4-game win streak, and it is awful.
Well, they won 2 in a row, right?
Yeah, and they're playing the Rockets twice.
Oh.
They're playing the Rockets Saturday, Sunday.
Okay. Yeah. All right. They could have had a 4-game win streak then. Hey, I'm all for it, baby. I'm all for it. We're trying to get Wembanyama.
No, you get.
I guess it doesn't matter.
It does because the bottom 3 are all there. You just can't drop out of the bottom 3.
So you guys.
And Detroit is right. Or Charlotte is hanging right there. And LaMelo Ball just broke his ankle.
I like this.
So you don't want to.
Hey,
you don't want to get up there.
Hey, you try to build the culture of the Spurs, man. I like that.
I want to win games. I also want to be in the bottom 3.
Hey, it's all good, baby. Rockets, keep doing what you're doing. Except keep on tanking. It's crazy to tank 3-4 years in a row, but that's what we're doing if you're the Rockets. It's a long time tanking. All right, we come back. We'll get into the flex on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Everyone knows that my favorite tequila is Hot Cat Tequila, and it is the weekend. And the best way to start the weekend is to do it with Hot Cat Tequila. So once I'm done officially, I'll decompress at the house with a nice shot of Hot Cat Tequila. You can do the same thing. The cat stands for cinnamon, agave, and tequila, and the recipe just as simple and brilliant and delicious. It's just cinnamon, agave, nectar, and tequila. It's so light. It's so smooth. It's a tequila lover's dream. And if you're not a fan of tequila, Hot Cat Tequila will make you a fan of tequila. It'll turn every event into a party, and every party feels like a celebration. So celebrate and turn up with Hot Cat Tequila. Every event feels like a celebration. So remember, folks, you can always turn your parties into a celebration with Hot Cat Tequila. It's the perfect way to pregame for the big game, night on the town, festivals, or just a great night with family and friends. Hot Cat Tequila is best served cold for a quick round of shots or to sip on the rocks. So visit cattequila.com. That's cattequila.com to find a store near you that sells Hot Cat Tequila, or to find a bar near you that serves Hot Cat Tequila. Toast and turn up with Hot Cat Tequila. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. 512 Friday, we play jams from very talented human beings that you can catch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Dead Lions. They're playing Saturday at Kick Butt Coffee.
Kick Butt Coffee. I've never been there before. I like that.
Yeah.
Kick Butt Coffee.
They
I'm
have
not a coffee person. I don't drink coffee, though. So
I
it's
don't
probably-
really either.
Yeah, that's
but I
probably
mean,
why.
I think they serve beer there too. So
Well, then I probably should head on over to Kick Butt Coffee.
yeah, you're not
It's my
listening
kind
to
of
this.
coffee spot.
You're not listening to this just sipping on coffee.
This is true. It doesn't
Just,
seem like
yeah.
the kind of coffee music, but it does seem like some good beer / coffee music.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Interesting. Okay, there you go. My man Patrick always hooking you up on the 512 Friday. You can sound cool in front of your friends like you know all the hot spots in the ATX where all these very talented people are going to perform. And if you missed any of it, you can go to hornfm.com. He always puts them up there, puts that information up there for you for a 512 Friday. All right, go to flxatx.com. That's also another great website for you. As a matter of fact, earlier this week, we did have our Wednesday Flex, and they have that available for you up there at flxatx.com. They had the Huddle quarterback on and Will Hammond. And also they had Alex Green, the wide receiver, on as well. And you can go check that out. They also ended up having a couple other guests on the show as well. So you can go check that out too. So flxatx.com. Also up there is their write-up about all of the Flex area players, I mean the Austin area players, who also were invited to the NFL Combine. So you can go check that out too. And your third round final scores and regional semifinal matchups for the Austin area high school basketball playoff scenarios and matchups. That's up there for you too. So go check that out. FLXATX.com, FLXATX on all of your social media platforms. We come back, we'll give you NFL Combine update, but also the Cowboys. Are they working on a deal at the Combine? A lot of deals being made at the Combine. There's some smoke, but the Cowboys may be willing to make a deal. We'll get into that. Also, the NFLPA player team survey, and Lamar Jackson's fully guaranteed deal. All of that and more in NFL news, notes, and nuggets right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. 512 Friday edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. My man Patrick plays songs from very talented people, very talented musicians and bands that you have a chance to hear live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Robert Johnson Soul, and they're playing tonight at Giddy Ups.
Robert Johnson Soul.
Yes.
Is this reference to like the blues, Robert Johnson?
I mean, it's not called Robert Johnson because there is another Robert Johnson, but this dude's name is Robert Johnson.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm saying. Cause isn't there like a famous blues singer, Robert Johnson?
Yes, the guy who went down to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil.
Yes.
That is Robert Johnson, one of the innovators of the blues.
Yes.
And this guy likes to play the blues as well.
Uh-oh.
And his name is Robert Johnson.
But this is not any connection to that.
No. You just had to have another name because you couldn't be
That's
Robert
pretty good.
Johnson. Yeah.
Well, most people, or at least if you know of the blues, one of the godfathers, blues, Robert Johnson, if you know of him, or founding fathers, I should say, blues, you probably would think that's the origin of the name, and you would be wrong.
Exactly. And it's one of those names that's just really hard to Google. Because you're like, Robert Johnson music, Robert Johnson blues, Robert Johnson guitar. All of these things are going to lead to a different Robert Johnson.
That is true. It's like Patrick Davis.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse. You're like, I can slip into any crowd, not going to pop up on any lists.
It's true. You were once hired by Patrick Davis.
I was once hired by Patrick Davis. And a fun fact, my dad played in Robert Johnson's Soul.
What?
My dad played bass on that, yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's cool.
So Dwight Davis played bass on that.
There you go. I like that. There you go. See? Gonna bring it all full circle here. I like that. All right, my man Patrick, always hooking us up and keeping us on our toes on a 512 Friday. You can be a part of the Specs Text line and be a part of the show on the Specs Text line. 512-337-3776. That is the number. We got some Cowboys kind of rumor mill stuff to get to, but it's from guys who are plugged in. Brian Broaddus, who I really respect, does a great job. Bobby Belt also does a great job. Covering the Cowboys. They do a podcast, and on their podcast, they started talking, I think it's called Locked On Cowboys. They started hypothesizing, theorizing about something that the Cowboys might be doing at the NFL Combine right now, other than evaluating prospects. But the Cowboys might be brewing something at the NFL Combine. So we'll get into that coming up. Also, Brandon Cooks, a trade possibility with the Houston Texans wide receiver. And once again, the Cowboys name came up. Cowboys name coming up a lot when it comes to that. And the latest update on the Lamar Jackson saga. Remember, March 7th is a big-time, deadline for the Lamar Jackson negotiations or the saga, because they got to figure out if they're going to franchise tag him, or at least which franchise tag they're going to place on him. I think it's.
And I've got a new team I want him to go to.
Oh, do you really?
I got a new team.
Oh, no. Oh, let me guess. Your Raiders.
No.
I was gonna say.
Why would I want him to go there?
Your Raiders to get Lamar Jackson. Oh, it's not that selfish?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Thought you were going the selfish route with that one.
No.
It makes sense, though. I'm not mad at you for that. But I just say I thought you were going Raiders with that one. Actually, Raiders need a quarterback.
They do need a quarterback. I don't know. They need a lot of things.
They need it,
including a new head coach.
Oh, you know what? Okay, this is actually related to the Raiders, too, and relates to all NFL teams, so it's a good topic of conversation. So the NFL Players Association conducted the first ever player survey. And it's anonymous for all the players, but it's every player in the NFL, I believe, or at least every team has players that participate in this survey. And essentially, they are asked about their team's workplace environment. And it's in 8 different categories that they ask about. How do you feel about your team and as an employee, your workplace culture and environment? The categories were treatment of families, food, service, nutrition, weight room, strength coaches. That probably should have been combined. Training room, training staff, locker room, and team travel. So, yeah. I think they went, so they got into a lot of different categories. So they go team travel. That's a big part of it. And they also talked about the actual coaches, too. So they got coaches as well in this survey. And there are anonymous, I would say, there are anonymous descriptions of complaints, like basic complaints from anonymous players who play for these particular teams. And based on all these different scores, they rank all the teams. And I'll just give you the Cowboys and the Texans rank really quickly. So if you combine all the different categories and they ranked them, or you gave them grades, I should say, A to F. And the Cowboys, based on the grades, are 5th. If you combine all the different categories and the grading system. They were A+ to A in strength coaches, weight room, food service and nutrition, and treatment of families. They were B in the training room, A+ staff. Actually, I take that back. A- staff. A+ locker room. C- team travel for the Cowboys. We'll get to why that is the case. C- team travel for the Cowboys. For the Texans were 4th. I have no idea how that happened. I would have thought the Texans, the dumpster fire of an organization, would have been low on this list, but apparently in terms of player treatment, workplace environment, workplace culture, Texans are pretty high. They're right ahead of the Cowboys if you're just ranking everything overall.
I will say, I think a lot of those guys on the Texans are pretty young. So they may have not seen anything else in the NFL yet.
That's fair.
I look, and I was just surprised too.
That's a good point, though.
But you're like, a lot of these guys are pretty young, so they may not know everything that's in the league. So they may be rating it higher. Just like, oh no, I was at a college last year that wasn't this good, and now I'm at a level and everything's better than I saw. Now it's positive for the future of the Texans.
It is.
It's outward appearances aren't as bad as what it looks like inside, apparently.
I'm with you. Trust me, I was blown away as well. I expected the ineptitude and the dysfunction of the Texans to be displayed here by player surveys. It was not. They got a B+, treatment of families, B+ in food service and nutrition. Weight room for them was an A. Strength coaches, A. Training room, A. Training staff was an A+. Training room was a B, locker room B+, A+ for team travel. So they did pretty good. Give it up for the Texans, man. Texans got a lot of love on this survey. And the only 2 teams ahead of the Texans and the Cowboys were the Raiders, the Dolphins, and the Vikings. The Vikings had the best numbers, reports of any of the other team through all the different categories.
And the Raiders make sense because there are a ton of new facilities.
Basically
Vegas. Everything had to be new because they just moved.
You just moved to
so
Vegas.
It makes sense that the Raiders would have nice stuff because they just haven't had to replace anything. It's all brand new.
That is a great point. Okay, so here's some of the detailed complaints from the different teams, which is very surprising. It's surprising, like, what teams were basically considered inept in what categories. The Jags players reported they had a 3 to 4 week. Basically 3 to 4 week situation, rat infestation. Best way to describe it. They had a 3 to 4 week rat infestation in the locker room and the laundry hampers. And then they said they found some way to get rid of the rats. But they said 3 or 4 weeks, they had to deal with it. That's a little surprising.
But
it happens. It happens in a lot of businesses. I don't know what. Doesn't mean that they have disgusting facilities or anything.
No, wasn't Tampa the one that had the staph infection thing?
Tampa did have the staph infection.
It's Florida stuff, isn't it?
When I played for Tampa, they still had. Man, this was after they won the Super Bowl too. They had the temporary buildings. You know, the ones almost like that schools have.
Yeah, the portables.
Yeah, they had some of those, which is
not a good look.
Not a good look at all. It's the NFL. So the Jags.
Let me write you this $48 million check in this portable building.
You know they making money. I mean, it's a $19 to $20 billion a year business. They making a ton of money.
Do you think Tom Brady just got one of those for himself?
No, Russell Wilson did. That was Russell Wilson's office. So those temporary buildings. Also, the survey said the Kansas City players said they felt discouraged from reporting injuries for fear of retribution for speaking up.
Oof.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's just it's so many little random complaints from players. The Arizona Cardinals, they do a lot of penny pitching. I mean, you're talking about billionaires here, so cheap billionaires, some of them. The Arizona Cardinals rank second to last in their overall score among the 32 NFL clubs. The locker room does not have confidence that owner Mike Bidwell is willing to invest to upgrade the facilities. He ranks the lowest in that category across the league. The responses that provide for the basis of the characterization include the worst ranked weight room, which some players feel is a safety hazard even at times, an outdated training room and locker room, and a policy of deducting dinner from players' paychecks should players want to get food at the facility. Take it out of your paycheck.
Come on now.
Yeah. I played with the Lions, and they never took it out of your paycheck. They had most of these places have a cafeteria right there.
Yeah.
And maybe some of them do charge for it. Not the places that I was at. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah. This is not going to be a bad look when you're trying to get free agents to come too.
There you go. That's a great point. If they actually are doing this type of research and the agent is doing his research, this makes it a lot easier to do your due diligence.
And just be like, hey, man, just to let you know, if you go to Arizona, like, you make sure you get paid enough that you get paid for lunches.
Yeah.
Like, write that in the contract. You think Kyler Murray, he has that in his contract?
Honestly, they make you pay for it. It's smart to be like, no, I need free lunches, I guess, or free dinners. I need that in the contract. It would seem unnecessary, but that might have to be the case depending on what team you go to. There's also complaints from Carolina Panthers players that the training rooms are basically too slick, like the floors are too slick, and that guys always slip on the floors, and that it's a hazard, and it's actually something that regularly the guys complain about and they joke about. It's like, man, I'm not going in there for treatment because I'm not trying to slip on the floors. That's crazy.
No, but that seems like such a rich, because the Panthers now have a very rich owner
who
does not mind spending money. But it seems like a thing where he'd be like, I'll make sure the floors are nice and shiny. And then we just slipping and sliding.
Yeah, said the players in the pool room, they feel they're unsafe, and there have been complaints of a slippery surface with players falling regularly. It's kind of just random complaints, but I thought they were the Cincinnati Bengals, who notoriously have a cheap owner. They don't provide dinner. And apparently there have been complaints from families about the treatment from the Bengals ownership. It says, so Bengals are one of the teams that do not provide dinner to their players. They're also one of the two teams that do not provide vitamins. They're also the only team that doesn't provide supplements. Additionally, so you got to buy your own vitamins and supplements. Additionally, players feel that they have some of the smallest hot and cold tubs in the league. They have issues with the showers and toilets not consistently working. They are the only team that does not have outlets in their locker rooms to charge devices. I love it. Yeah. No, you ain't charging nothing. You just have to work, damn it.
This is from the owner that is so cheap that Carson Palmer retired.
Yeah, that's true.
He retired because they wouldn't trade him and they wouldn't pay him. He retired.
And Joe Burrow is up to be paid. He's up for a new contract. Chase. That scares you. That got to scare you if you're a Bengals fan. It's got to scare you a little bit. Also, the players who responded to the survey also complained that there's nowhere warm and safe for mothers and kids to go during the game because the Bengals do not provide a family room, unlike the majority of teams. Players reported that wives have sat on the public restroom floor to nurse their babies.
Come on now. Come on.
I'm telling you, these complaints it's wild. Okay, here's another one from the Colts. It said the two main reasons that players, the biggest complaints, I should say, two main issues players have are food. That's the two main issues they have are food. So much that some players prefer to pack their own lunch rather than eat at the facility. And the feeling that the team should significantly improve its travel policies is also the second biggest complaint because they don't like the travel policy. But, yeah, said the food is terrible. Guys making sack lunches to the Colts. I like that. There you go. I mean, that's pretty cheap, man. Come on, get some good food at your facility.
Come on,
the Detroit Lions had good food. I ain't gonna lie, it was really good food. I'm not gonna lie, it was really good. Like I knew the chef.
So you're
and everything.
saying the one thing they did right at the time when you were there,
pretty much,
was it?
Yeah, that's one of the only things the Lions were really good at. But their facilities were brand new around the time. I mean, they had to host the Super Bowl around that time too. So they were brand new facilities at the time. Okay, so the Chiefs said players' responses showed the treatment of players Also falls well below other clubs across the NFL. For example, it said here about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are one of 6 teams that still make certain players have roommates in hotel rooms for games. And less than 50% of players feel they have enough room to be comfortable on flights. Oh, because I guess they make them sit right next to each other on flights. Hey, they trying to pinch pennies, man. I guess they're trying to pinch pennies wherever they can. How about this? Here's your Raiders. So it said at the workplace, the lowest graded category was the coaching staff for the Raiders. Players' respondents felt that the head coach, Josh McDaniels, is less likely to listen to his players and keeps them for longer hours than other head coaches around the league. Longer hours are not correlated to winning, as 7 of the top 8 coaches rated as being the most efficient with their players' time in 2022 survey made the playoffs this year. So they complain about your coach, man.
That's not
Wasting their
surprising.
damn time. He likes to meet a lot. Everybody's
Bill Belichick.
everybody's got a boss who loves to meet. We've had these, but everybody's had a boss where like, let's have a meeting. He's like, no, that should be an email. That don't need to be a meeting. Just email that to us, and we can all, it should be fine. We don't need to meet. We don't need to, conference call, none of that. Just email it. Nope, he likes to meet. He's one of those guys like to meet a lot. So,
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's Bill Belichick stuff.
that is probably some Belichick stuff.
Yeah,
there.
because the stories of Bill Belichick that he would go in and he would tell you stories about the team, like his day one meetings were like telling you the history of the franchise.
Yeah, he's
Before
one of
you
the-
got into
yeah,
that.
he's a historian.
So he would do that with the team, which you're like, all right, bro, cool, I get it. They're the Chargers. We got a game. Don't care.
Yeah, no, you're probably right about that. Also, the Chargers, the biggest complaint from the players was that the training room basically is. They complain that it's gross and disgusting. Player respondents shared positive feedback about their head coach. So they like Brandon Staley and the strength coaches. The player respondents shared information indicating that they felt that there are deficiencies with the training room, the cafeteria, and the locker room, which all graded poorly. The maintenance for the hot tub and cold tubs is lacking, with some of the respondents calling these facilities even gross.
Wait, but like, aren't there you mean in the practice facilities, locker rooms? I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm like at the
So they're
game.
facilities.
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
facilities,
Because I'm like at the game, then the Rams should have the same complaints.
Yeah, it's like their practice, whatever their practice facilities
Okay,
are.
yeah.
I don't know exactly where they are, but yeah, I mean that's where if you're near a billionaire, you don't want to pinch pennies at the stadium.
No,
'Cause
but
that's
you
where
got
you
that's
gotta make
another one
money.
of those. That's another one of those teams that is that's owned by a guy who doesn't have full rights to the money because it's a passed down.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
So he has to pass through everything through his family members who want him to sell the team really badly. So that's always one of those that I'm sure that just gets pushed aside in his arguments because we got to go sign another player. So it's easier for me to tell you we need to spend $20 million to sign this player than for me to tell you we need to spend $50 million to clean the floors and put new floors in and stuff
you're right
like
about that. That is that's those NFL owners that do have that liquid cash.
Yeah.
And because all of them have money. I mean, they all got a ton of money, but having liquid cash is a different thing than being worth a ton of money.
And being able to own it outright.
Yes.
Because once it's passed down, you're like, well, you're the CEO, but the ownership now is split 3 ways between the 3 kids, and the one kid's running it, and the other 2 just want their money.
Yeah. That's a good point, too. Yes, that's happened with a couple of NFL teams before when it starts getting to the kids, and some kids don't give a damn about football. They want to sell it.
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's an
You
asset.
want me to be a billionaire overnight
yeah,
or
exactly.
a billionaire on paper?
Yeah, no question. Tampa Bay Bucks, no child care or family space, small, outdated locker room. Players still have roommates when they travel, so they were upset about that. So, and the Washington Commanders, of course, were the worst graded team in all of the NFL. No surprise there. The Washington Commanders ended up with their grades an F in treatment of families, a D+ in food service and nutrition, a C+ in the weight room. They did get an A+ in strength coaches, an F- in the training room, a D in the training staff, an F- in the locker room, and an F- in team travel. No surprise there. The NFL probably is happy about that too. They right now
It would
want.
have been surprising if it wasn't that way.
That's a good point. Yeah, and honestly, if you are an owner and you finished below the Commanders, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are the second worst graded team by this survey by the players in the NFL this year. Okay, let's get to the Cowboys news just really quickly. As a matter of fact, let's take a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll get to the Cowboys news. There's some rumor brewing about the Cowboys at the NFL Combine. Speaking of the Combine, we'll give you an update on the NFL Combine as well. Also, there's talk about Brandon Cooks possibly being traded, so we'll jump into that story too, and Lamar Jackson's fully guaranteed deal. There's another update on what the stalemate may be about with the negotiations between Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. We'll hit all of that on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. 512 Friday edition of Ball Don't Lie. We play jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you can catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
He's an oldie but a goodie. Joe King Carrasco is playing tonight at ABGB.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oldie but a goodie, you said?
Yeah, this is from the 80s. A little minor hit with this.
I feel the vibe.
Yeah.
I feel the 80s vibe there. No question about it. I'm an 80s baby, so I feel that. All right, you can be a part of the show. Specs Text Sound's the best way to do it. 512-337-3776. Got a couple of NFL topics that we're going to hit here. I'm going to try to hit the Cowboys and the rumor mill that has really been, it's been spinning a lot for the Cowboys at the NFL Combine. One of the most talked about stories at the NFL Combine is the Cowboys working a deal. Supposedly. We'll play some audio from Brian Broaddus and Bobby Belt on the Locked On Cowboys podcast talking about that. Also, Lamar Jackson, an update on the negotiations and all the drama, the stalemate between he and the Baltimore Ravens. And also, there's talk about the Brandon Cooks trade finally at least showing some type of progress in those negotiations. He's demanded a trade for, I don't know, a couple of months now. There's been no progress at all made about it, but now there is a story out there that the Texans may be in the process of making a deal to trade one Brandon Cooks. So we'll talk about that too. First, let's get into this Cowboys audio. This was from the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and they are basically at least they're discussing a rumor that the Cowboys may be trying to make a deal at the Combine, where a lot of teams are making deals, where all the teams executives are there, all the the different head coaches are all there, the GMs are all there. So easy access. Start talking about making a deal, whether it be for the draft or whether it be for the offseason. Here is Brian Broaddus and Bobby Belt.
Stephen Jones did say from the Combine that they are working on something big. And Michael Gehlken said the same thing. Well, excuse me. Gehlken said it, and I think Stephen was kind of talking about it as a possibility. But Michael Gehlken, who's very plugged into this team, we talked about him, Todd Archer, very plugged in. A lot of talented writers, men and women here. But Gehlken, I wonder if Gehlken off to the side – got somebody to tell him, hey, they're working on a big, big deal. That's why I threw the Diggs name out there. Maybe one of these wide receivers or something like that. But that's the case. Yeah, that's the case.
It's a very interesting proposition. They definitely, I think, are motivated to make this football team better. Now, how they interpret that and how they interpret making the football team better may be different than how the fans would interpret it. But I think
it's probably Odell Beckham. It's probably just Odell Beckham.
It's probably just Odell Beckham. I will say they've been working on the Odell Beckham deal for a long time, since mid-season this past season?
Yeah, around then, yeah.
So you're talking about October, maybe November of last year they started talking about, maybe even before that. So, yeah, man, you're talking about, going on 4 or 5 months of them talking about getting this deal done. Maybe it is Odell. Remember, he wasn't willing to work out, and I'm not sure if he would have even been able to pass all the physicals if it is Odell. If it's Stephon Diggs or another kind of top-flight elite wide receiver, that would be great too. I think the Cowboys just need to invest better in the wide receiver position if that's the case. They drafted Jalen Tolbert, didn't work out for him. There's no question they need more dynamic plays made from the wide receiver position. Michael Gallup, the assumption is when he's healthy, which he wasn't this past season, he'll be capable, serviceable number 2. Behind CeeDee Lamb is fine. You got your number 1, and CeeDee Lamb is great. But, the miscalculation by the Cowboys to trade Amari Cooper when they thought he was overpriced at $20 million, when now, there are 10 receivers in the NFL, maybe more than that make at least $20 million a year. That was not an overblown, bloated value of the wide receiver. They just thought it was. And then when you did trade him, you only got a 5th-round pick. When if he's a number 1 wide receiver, he should have got a 1st or 2nd-round pick in exchange for him. So I think ultimately they're still paying the price for that right now. And then Michael Gallup not bouncing back after the injury hurts him even more, because they really didn't have a true number 2 last year. And then they really couldn't even find a true number 3 receiver out of that group either. And they thought it was going to be James Washington at first, and it wasn't James Washington. And they brought in T.Y. Hilton so he could fill that role. So they do need to stockpile at wide receiver. And you do it via the free agency and the draft.
And Kellen Moore's offense, that number 3 wide receiver was so crucial because we had Michael Gallup and we had Cedric Wilson and the Cowboys. So you had both those guys. That was your number 3 for the last 2 years. It was Michael Gallup 2 years ago and Cedric Wilson last year.
Yep.
So the Cowboys kind of thought of that number 3, and in Kellen Moore's playbook, it got used a lot. Dak got very used to using that number 3. And so now when you're like, well, Gallup's in the 2, so now is it Noah Brown in the 3? But then Noah Brown has to be back in the 3 because Gallup's not healthy. And they signed James Washington and then cut him before he ever even hit the field.
Yep.
I mean, like that. It was just a mess of what they did at wide receiver to have riches at it, to honestly have injured Michael Gallup, Cedric Wilson, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb to go to CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And Michael Gallup that you hope now this season can come back and play better. But, I mean, I wouldn't bet on him being anything better than a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, you signed him to a new deal, so you better hope he ends up meeting expectations and becomes a true wide receiver 2. That's what you signed him.
That's what you hope, but I think, at this point, you're...
Well, yeah, he wasn't there last year, but the belief is that he was hurt. And then my concern for the Cowboys is if Michael Gallup had a down year coming back off an injury, I wonder what Tony Pollard's going to be coming back off an injury. And I think he can come back and be a great player, but, man, you do need a contingency plan and insurance policy behind Tony Pollard this year.
And let's be clear with Michael Gallup.
And that doesn't need to be Zeke, by the way.
And Michael Gallup has never been a wide receiver 2. Everyone thought he could be a wide receiver 2 because he was a really good wide receiver 3. But he was never a wide receiver 2 because they had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb.
This is fair. You could, yes. I mean, I don't disagree with that.
So he was a wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
Now, he played at a much higher level than a normal.
You projected he was going to be that.
Yes, but he's normally playing against with 2 other guys on the field, and he's playing against a lesser corner usually.
No, that's a good point. I'm with you. And that's why I said the miscalculation on Amari Cooper, they're still paying for it. They're still paying for that because if you had kept him around, then you could have dealt with the slow bounce back or the bad bounce back year of Michael Gallup off the injury.
The lack of progression that you were hoping to have.
Then you brought up a good point. The Cedric Wilson loss was huge.
They're not even using him in Miami.
They don't.
So call it Miami.
They just stockpile speed. No, because that would be them admitting they made a mistake by not just giving Cedric Wilson a little bit of money because he's one of those guys that Dak liked. He's not necessarily great anywhere, other places. We know that, depending on the fit. But Dak really liked Cedric Wilson. On third down, in red zone. It's one of those guys. Because he developed with the Cowboys, throwing to Cedric Wilson. I mean, they drafted him the same year they drafted Michael Gallup, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
I believe
that's why they were both free agents the same year.
Yeah, I believe it's the same year. And, man, he really did look explosive with the Cowboys during that time. So they do need to rebuild at wide receiver. So some of the rumblings at the Combine are Cowboys making a move for a wide receiver. Free agency or trying to make a trade for a wide receiver. We'll see. And that obviously could be during draft time, too. We'll see how that works out. Okay, let's get to the Lamar Jackson story. Because there seems to be an update on Lamar Jackson and his status with the stalemate with the Ravens every week. Hell, probably a couple of times a week. And the latest is, and we're just going back and forth. There have been reports that he wants a fully guaranteed deal. And then remember Stephen A. Smith reported on First Take he had sources that talked to his camp, and they said he never demanded a fully guaranteed deal. Talking about on the same network, by the way, ESPN. And now ESPN is reporting, Jamison Hensley of ESPN.com, that Jackson wants a fully guaranteed deal. I am inclined to believe he wants a fully guaranteed deal.
I believe, too. I mean, Stephen A. Smith is the one guy who said he doesn't.
He's pretty much. Exactly. They got one. But he's everybody knows Stephen A. Smith is credible. No question.
He is. But it was a guy. He said a guy in Lamar Jackson's camp. So unless it is Lamar Jackson himself.
Because he's the agent.
He is the agent.
He's his own agent. So
I mean, he has advisors. His mom is helping him.
I think his mom is one of those advisors.
But he cannot, because the NFL has rules about who can be an agent and who's certified. Lamar Jackson, in the NFL's eyes, is the agent. So I don't know who he's talking to.
Like degrees of separation, how far is that from Lamar?
How far
are we
to
talking
go,
about best friend?
Well, does he want guaranteed? And what do you say? Well, it doesn't want fully guaranteed, but they're lowballing him. And is it Lamar Jackson saying, well, he would take not fully guaranteed if they're willing to make other concessions?
No, that's important. The fully is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because guaranteed, there's some a bunch of guarantees within the contract, but fully, the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
The whole shebang bang. Guaranteed. I'm talking about Deshaun Watson style. That's what he wants. No, I shouldn't even said that. Deshaun Watson's out. Don't make that a thing. Let me stop that right now. No, Deshaun Watson's contract is what he wants. And right now, and I've said this before, Patrick, because I think that, and I don't know if, because your theory is different than my theory about what's happening here. My theory is that Lamar Jackson, like a lot of men that I know, and I'm probably guilty of it too. Not probably, I am. I'm guilty of it too. Of sabotaging a relationship when you don't want to just break up with a woman. You'd rather her break up with you. So you got to start sabotaging the relationship, saboteur. And then after a couple of months or a couple of weeks of sabotaging the relationship, she has enough self-respect to go, all right, I'm not going to stand for this. You don't treat me any kind of way. You know what? You can go. All right, I'm breaking up with you. You can go you can go whatever separate way you want to go. And I think Lamar Jackson's doing some of that now. I'm not sure it started that way. I think it started as a true negotiation. But when he made the first mistake of being his own agent and having to sit in those negotiations across from the GM and the owner and the head coach, and and them actually play hardball with you, when usually that stuff they would play with your agent, they'd play hardball with your agent, and your agent would soften the message for you, and then you'd have that buffer. He didn't got that buffer. And I think something that happened in those negotiations turned Lamar Jackson against the Ravens. And I think at this point, we could be looking at Lamar Jackson sabotaging this relationship, saying, all I'll accept is a fully guaranteed deal. And them saying, we'll give you damn near anything except a fully guaranteed deal. We'll give you almost a fully guaranteed deal. We'll make you the highest paid quarterback in the NFL outside of the Deshaun Watson deal. We'll give you the best deal ever in the history of the NFL outside of the Deshaun Watson deal. And he's saying, no, I want that deal or better, period.
Yeah.
And he knows they won't do it. As an organization, they won't do it. And the NFL, the owners, I'm not going to call it collusion, but I think they have an understanding, a gentleman's agreement between themselves that, hey, none of y'all do this fully guaranteed deal. And they're not all on that bandwagon, but a lot of them are, because they understand at one point they're going to be in this situation and they don't want to give the fully guaranteed deal. But there are a few rogue actors, rogue billionaires, and it's probably about 5 or 6 that are willing to go, I don't give a damn. I need a quarterback, and I will give him a fully guaranteed deal if he wants to come play for me. And that's who he is catering to.
And I think I think there's also something that Baltimore not leaking anything out on their side, only leaking out negative Lamar Jackson and nothing pro Baltimore, leads me to believe they are lowballing him as well. Because if I'm it would be leaked out plenty of times. We're offering him 4 years, $250 million. We're offering him whatever this huge deal is. We're offering him this amount, and I would say that amount without the dollar, without the guaranteed money attached to it. But I would say that amount is what we're offering him. So then, because I know public sentiment, once I say that, is 100% on my side. Because they will say most people won't even think about the guaranteed money. They won't know the difference between it, and they'll just say this guy turned down $60 million a year. That guy turned down $55-60 million a year. Oh, I hate him. And that's all they have to do. And they're the good guys. And it's going to put more and more pressure on Lamar Jackson, because I don't think Lamar Jackson liked, at the end of the season, people questioning the validity of his injury. I don't think he liked any of that.
That's fair.
Of the way it went down at the end of the season, when he's like, look, I can't play. We saw that Baltimore strength facilities or strength, whatever, their training stuff was ranked really, really low. So he may not like what the training staff is. He may want other concessions. He's probably not happy that they haven't given him any help. And they can say, well, we hired Todd Monken. And he goes, that's not a guy that I want. So I'm going to tell you the team that I want him to go to. And there is a caveat. There's a hitch in this of, I don't think this owner is going to give a fully guaranteed deal. I think they could. I don't think they will. But the New York Giants. The New York Giants made the playoffs with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones wants $45 million a year.
That's crazy.
If your option right now is no quarterback, $45 million, or I give up and I pay a little bit more and guarantee it to Lamar Jackson.
I'd do that.
Supersize it.
Yep.
That's all it is. You're supersizing your quarterback. How much is a supersize? What, 40 cents? And you get a large drink and a large fries? Supersize it. Get Lamar Jackson and put him with Brian Daboll. Because if you tell me that you don't want to watch Lamar Jackson and Brian Daboll's offense, you're crazy.
And
Like,
then,
I get if you're Cowboys fans and Eagles fans, you don't want that.
and then resign Saquon or give him a
Hey, tell Saquon to come back, get no deal.
franchise him, I
Go
guess.
pick up Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
Go find you a tight end. Evan Ingram's a free agent. He was there before. You can go get a guy like that. Put
Yeah.
together that offense, and all of a sudden that offense becomes, with Brian Daboll,
I love it.
like that coach, he made Daniel Jones. Is there a better running, passing quarterback coach than Brian Daboll in the league right now?
No, he does. He's done a great job of being able to teach these quarterbacks, those dual threat quarterbacks, of when to weaponize their legs.
And to
Yeah.
limit turnovers.
Yeah, he's done a good job with that too, with Josh Allen and with Daniel Jones.
So why would you not want to see this? And if you're the Giants now and you're stuck in this rock and a hard place of, dude, Daniel Jones wants $45 million a year, and I get we're not guaranteeing any of that. Like, none of this is guaranteed. I get that, but why not just take the risk? You're the Giants, so even if you're bad, you still make money because you're in New York. So you can take a little bit more of a risk and go injury Olympics team, Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson, Odell Beckham Jr., and if Michael Thomas gets released, pick him up too. Everyone may get hurt, but if they're healthy in the playoffs, you got a chance to win a Super Bowl.
I like it all except the Odell thing.
I get they just need a wide receiver, and there's not any out there.
They do need a wide receiver, but
They need a wide receiver,
The
and
Odell
that's
thing, I'm against it. But I love the idea of of them saying, you know what, to hell with Daniel Jones. That's too expensive. And if we're gonna pay that for Daniel Jones, why not just pay a little bit more for Lamar Jackson?
supersize it,
I'm
man.
with you, man. And
Supersize your quarterback.
I think it's a great take. I'm with it all the way. Will the Giants are too? They're too stable and they're too
It's the Morris.
they're too well run to give Lamar Jackson a guaranteed deal.
I know that's the thing.
They're
Is
too
Morris,
well run. Like I just don't see them doing it. But I love it. I love it.
that's the one. I
In
wish.
New York
I wish it were-
City.
in
Oh,
New
yeah.
York, you let
And-
him go to New York.
And their biggest issues right now with Lamar Jackson is he doesn't, or at least one of the talking points, the narratives with the media, is that he doesn't get enough like endorsement deals.
Yeah.
Because, for whatever reason, hell, you're the quarterback of the New York Giants, you have more than enough endorsement deals.
Quarterback of the Giants, and I'm telling you, if you put him with Brian Daboll,
I love that. I love that marriage. That would be a beautiful marriage. Oh.
so I get that it probably won't happen because the Giants just don't do things like that.
Oh, it'd be a nightmare for the Cowboys. You got to deal with Jalen Hurts twice a year and Lamar Jackson twice a year.
I mean, the good part is you are building your defense is built around that type of quarterback now.
Wow. Yeah, you better. But I love that idea, man. And so we'll see. March 7th is the date that they have to either franchise tag him, which means he'll make average of the top 5 quarterbacks, which is $45 million. So that's what they'd have to pay to franchise tag a quarterback, or they could standard franchise tag him, which is $32 million value. But he can negotiate with other teams, and if they do that and he agrees to terms with another team and signs a deal, then they would have to give the Ravens 2 first-round picks. That's not going to happen. It's more likely that they're probably going to franchise tag him and then trade him if they will. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is Baltimore Ravens GM Eric DeCosta at the Combine recently just said, quote, "We've probably made more trades than just about any team in the league. Maybe we're second. That being said, I covered great players. I covered quarterbacks, and I love Lamar, so that has not factored in one time with me." So, but that's just him talking. He's talking. And that's his side, not Lamar's side.
Yeah,
So-
and that's the thing. You can say, look, I can say I love a girl all day long. If she don't love me back, it ain't gonna happen. If Lamar ain't gonna sign the contract, you can offer him whatever you want. If you're not gonna get him a fully guaranteed deal, and that's what his sticking point is,
That's what he wants.
then you need to move on to plan B instead of just being like, you know what, let's ruin his career, let's ruin our season. Let's just take them both as complete losses. And we'll just wait it out, and we'll just,
Is he willing to not play? Is he willing to sit out a
I can't
season?
imagine
That's the
he's going to
question.
sign a franchise tender, though. Like,
I
that's
mean,
the
either.
thing.
It's like, is he willing to sit out? And if not, then you're looking at the trade, and then you start thinking about the basically a sign and trade scenario with another team. And
Yeah.
then he wants a fully guaranteed deal. I don't know how you work that out with a sign and trade,
No, I don't either.
right? I don't know
No,
how you
because
do
you're
that.
dead cap and all that.
Yeah, and
I
I don't know how a team would. They're not going to sign. They're not going to trade for him just 1 year and then him potentially become a free agent the next year. So I don't know how they'd work the sign and trade. That'd be interesting too, because he'd have to sign a deal.
Yeah.
to didn't get traded. So
I don't know. I'm sure there is a path
So
for
they can
that.
franchise tag him, give him $45 million a year, and then trade him for whatever they want to. And then he would go to another team on the franchise
deal.
tag, but then they wouldn't have a guarantee that he would be with them the next year.
No, but yeah, and then he would sign the extension. Then they would immediately.
Well,
I don't know.
like I said, you have an extension window, but then he would have
Yeah.
to sign the extension.
Yeah.
You trade for him and then give him the picks, and then the Baltimore Ravens already decide, you know what? Yeah, he's on a franchise tag with us. It means he's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
We'll trade him for 3 first-round picks, whatever it is. You still got to guarantee he's going to sign the fully guaranteed deal with them. So you got to offer a fully guaranteed deal if you're going to trade 3 first-round picks for him or whatever.
That's true.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's just
What a conundrum.
Hey man, you got till Tuesday, Ravens. Come
Figure it
on,
out.
Ravens. You got till
Figure it out.
Tuesday. I want to see a trade this weekend or Monday.
Hey, I love your idea, Giants idea, though. What'd you say? Supersize?
Supersize it,
I like
man.
it, man.
If you're paying Daniel Jones, supersize to Lamar Jackson.
I know who gets regular size when they go to like Chick-fil-A?
I wear in Texas. You got to water size it.
Yeah, you want to size of Texas. Yeah, I like that. Even better. All right, we come back. We got off the record on the other side. Austin, one of those places where everybody wants to live. Right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104 on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. You can make your basketball bracket a moneymaker over at MyBookie. That's right, folks. You need to get started today over at MyBookie. You can use the promo code HORN, HORN, to receive a deposit bonus up to $1,000 right now over at MyBookie. That's HORN, HORN. Grab your extra funds right now for a limited time, and you can claim a free entry into the $150,000 MyBookie basketball bracket contest for a chance at big money. We're talking about straight cash, homie. If you're the type of guy or gal who likes to fill out multiple brackets to get an advantage, you can do that as well. The price of entry is less than an Uber ride, so all for a shot at winning a life-changing amount of money. With so many brands to choose from, you need a platform that makes it simple to bet and easy to use and easy to win, like MyBookie. Visit MyBookie online and use the promo code HORN. That's right, HORN, HORN, to receive a deposit bonus up to $1,000. That's HORN, HORN. Bet anything, bet anytime, and bet anywhere. As long as you're betting with MyBookie, you're betting with the best. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Time for another edition of Off the Record, and this one actually highlights the great city of Austin a little bit. New York Times conducted a survey asking Americans where would Americans move if money was no object. 19% said L.A., which I say that. L.A. is ridiculously expensive. 18% said Atlanta. Hot Atlanta. I'm a little surprised at Hot Atlanta being that high on the list, actually. But Atlanta is a great town. I love Atlanta. I just didn't know. I guess now the secret's out that Atlanta is a really fantastic town. Great food. And also really, like Austin, like a vibrant movie scene. Like, it's a lot of
Georgia, they have a lot
films.
of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of movies being made in Georgia.
You'll see a lot of stuff that has
the
Georgia, the Georgia Peach thing.
A lot of movies been made in Atlanta, just like Austin. Austin is third on this list. 17% of the respondents said Austin is the place they would move if money was no object. Well, money is an object, and so are property taxes. So I hope you can afford them. And rent, by the way, which is the highest in the state in Austin. Has been for the last, 4 or 5 years, though.
If I didn't know people.
I do. Yeah, ain't no such thing as a starter home in Austin either. That's where you're gonna live.
Well,
that's
your
where
starter
you're
home
gonna die.
your starter home is it's a shed out back. And during South by, rent there is $10,000 a day.
That's where that tiny home comes in. I guess you can get one of those. Las Vegas is at 15%. They were fourth behind Austin. Miami 15%. New York 15%, along with Boston and Dallas. Shout out Dallas, don't do that. And then Baltimore at 14%. Did not expect to see that either.
People saw The Wire?
I have no, that make you want to move to Baltimore?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what else would make me want to move to Baltimore.
Where would you live if money was no object?
I'd probably here. I mean, I might probably move. I might move to the beach.
What about Hawaii? I'm surprised Hawaii didn't make the list.
Yeah,
you can move anywhere and money's
but
no
I feel
object.
like Hawaii,
Hawaii's expensive.
Hawaii's expensive. I just also feel like Hawaii's not a place you necessarily want to live.
Like
I feel like because then you're like you live there. It's like, what are you gonna do for a job? I get the money's no object, but
money's no object. I'm living. You know what I mean? I got to worry about money no more.
Yeah.
I'll do a radio show from Hawaii.
There you go.
I'll build a studio there in Hawaii.
Studio.
We know somebody who's done that.
We do.
And he lives a pretty good life, damn it. So that's what I'd do probably. All right, we'll come right back. We'll get into Longhorns at the NFL Combine update, Bijan Robinson draft odds, and we'll talk about the Combine, the winners and losers. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn, 512 Friday edition of Ball Don't Lie. We play jams from local bands and artists, very talented people that you have a chance to listen to live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the Peterson Brothers, and they are playing Saturday, Continental Club.
I actually know what a Continental Club is. I've been there a couple of times. All right, so my man Patrick always hooking you up on a 512 Friday. If you missed any of the selections for 512 Friday, you can go to hornfm.com and catch up with them right there on the website. Also, you can hit us up via Twitter. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. My man Patrick at It's Patrick Davis. You also can hit us up on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. We'll get into the NFL Combine here. The Longhorns, who have performed at the NFL Combine so far. Right now, you have DBs continuing to run their 40s and do their testing. They're doing the safeties now. Corners already performed and ran their 40s and did their testing. Now I believe they're doing safeties and other defensive backs running their 40s right now. So we'll get you some updates. The fastest 40 for the cornerbacks was DJ Turner the second. He ended up running a 4.26. And, man, there are at least... Wow, there were at least 8 corners that ended up running sub 4.4. And hell, Maryland had 2 of them. Jacorian Bennett and Deontay Banks. Kelly Ringo was one of the highest graded corners or prospects at the corner position coming out this year. He ran a 4.36 out of Georgia. Christian Gonzalez, another really highly touted prospect out of Oregon. That cornerback, he ran a 4.38. Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson, the TCU cornerback who ran a Thorpe Ward, ran a 4.41. So that's a pretty good time for him as well. We'll get into the Longhorns, how they performed at the Combine. It is it's a Freak Flag Friday, so it's appropriate that we're talking about the freak show, because that's what we're watching at the NFL Combine is a ton of freaks. And I think ultimately, honestly, the biggest freak show had to be the defensive linemen that went yesterday. I know everybody loves the track meet, and you're going to see a bunch of speedsters that are putting on a show with the DBs and cornerbacks and wide receivers, and they're going to run some blazing times. We've already seen a ton of them. But to me, when you get the bigger bodies like the defensive linemen, D-ends, and the linebackers, and those guys are able to put up some of these extraordinary times and numbers, that, to me, is mind-blowing. The DBs, I can fathom that. I've seen it. It makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is 6'2", 238, Nolan Smith, outside linebacker, D-end, running a 4.39 40. That doesn't make sense. That's some superhuman X-Man type stuff going on, man. He's his second fastest time for a D lineman since 2003. He ran a 1.52 10-yard split, a 41.5-inch vertical, which is a higher vertical than DK Metcalf. His 40 time was faster than Saquon Barkley. His 10-foot 8-inch broad jump was better than Von Miller. Remember I told you yesterday you can win the Combine? It's possible. It's not an official winner of the Combine, but considering it is a made-for-TV extravaganza, if you can win the main event or put on a show during the main event, which is the 40, and then impress during the other drills and testing, you can win the Combine. And Nolan Smith of Georgia, he won the damn thing. At least he's one of the winners, I should say. There's also this defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. Did y'all see this guy? He's 6'1", so he's undersized, much like Aaron Donald, undersized. This dude is 281 pounds, I believe it is. Ended up running a 4.67 at D tackle. He actually ended up breaking Aaron Donald's record because Aaron Donald ran a 4.68. So essentially, how about this? Because if you look at his 1.64 10-yard split, which was phenomenal for a D tackle, which is just that in itself is also something pretty freaky. Basically, it is the fastest time ever at the Combine, or at least in modern times, since they've been tracking it. So I probably just go back to the 2000s, since it's been on TV. Fastest time ever by someone over 280 pounds. Because Aaron Donald was the fastest time ever for someone over 280 pounds when he ran a 4.68. Now this dude ran a 4.67. Just unbelievably freaky stuff. Some of the other freaky performers, Byron Young of Tennessee, who ran a 4.43, a defensive end. Man, the edge class is going to be crazy this year. You got that Nolan Smith, who I just talked about from Georgia. He's considered to be a defensive end / outside linebacker. Of the nearly 650 defensive ends to compete at the NFL since 2000, Nolan Smith has now the second best 40 time ever among that group and the third best vertical jump with the 41.5-inch vertical of that group. And plus, it is taller than only 28 of their participants. He's heavier than only 6 of their participants. So he's light for his position, but still some freakish numbers for a guy is even playing that position, period. And then I just gave you the Kalijah Kancey, who is the defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, who ran a 4.67 at 281 pounds. Then there's Byron Young, who ran a 4.43, 38-inch vertical from Tennessee. There have been 1,150 D linemen to participate in the NFL Combine since 2000. Among them, he has the 4th best 40 with that 4.43, 3rd best broad jump, 34th best vertical, and the 8th kind of overall speed score. Like I said, these are the freaks. There's a difference between the freaks like these guys and just great athletes. I may have been in the great athlete category. Some of these guys are just in the freak category. They're, like I said, not superhuman, but definitely highly evolved humans. And then there's Adetomiwa Adebawore. He is the defensive end out of Northwestern. And it's I'm sure I screwed up his name. I believe it's Adetomiwa Adebawore. And if I messed it up, I apologize. He also is a freak. He had the fastest 40 by any player that weighed 270 pounds since 2003, and he ended up running a 4.49. He's the heaviest player to run sub 4.5 at the Combine since at least 2003. And if you look at players who have at least a 37-inch vertical, he was 37.5. And guys who run at least 37.5 vertical and they weigh at least 275 pounds, which he does. That's hard to do. To that type of explosion with that type of frame. The only other players to do that at the Combine, J.J. Watt, Rashawn Gary, and Mario Williams. So the dude's got some special kind of freakness going on. So 2 of the fastest times at the Combine for 280-pound prospects since 2000 were at the Combine this year. That's how this. So and they're D linemen. Kalijah Kancey from Pittsburgh, the defensive tackle, and Adebawore, the defensive end out of Northwestern. I guess it's a special kind of freak show, man, going on at the NFL Combine. So that's some of the winners and the losers. Also, the Iowa linebacker Jack Campbell turned a lot of heads too. 4.65 40, 37.5-inch vertical, but you're talking about a guy with a ton of size, and Pro Football Focus loves him. He also had 10.7 broad jump, 4.24 shuttle. Really nice change of direction for a big, linebacker like him. So that's also another guy that really turned some heads at the Combine. Let's talk about the Longhorns who turned heads at the Combine and hopefully made some money at the Combine. DeMarvion Overshown. Now, he did not participate in all of the drills. He's not the only one, though. There are a ton of the prospects that I looked at that only did the staples, right? The most popular drills, the 40, the vertical, the 5, 10, 5, that short shuttle, and that was about it. So not everybody did, the 3 cone. Not everybody did all of the different drills with the testing at the Combine. They just did some of the ones that I assume they thought that most of the scouts wanted to see. So DeMarvion Overshown, he did do the 40-yard dash. The adjusted time was 4.56. He had a 1.59 10-yard split, which was good for 13th, but his 40 was 11th best among the linebackers. That's not bad. It's not extraordinary or elite, but it's exactly what the scouts need to see. And he was 7th in the broad jump at 10 feet, 4 inches, only 15 reps on the bench. I can tell you why that doesn't, hurt him too much. This is a guy that's transitioning still from safety to linebacker, has only been playing linebacker for 3 years, played in the Big 12, which is a conference that is not known for him taking on a ton of bulk with opposing offensive linemen. So, yeah, I'm sure they want him to increase his play strength. I believe that is one of the knocks on him on the scouting report. He's got to get better in terms of translating the weight room to the actual field, so his play strength, but also taking on blocks with bigger humans and being able to take those blocks on and not trying to avoid those blocks, which he did early in his career, but being able to use leverage and take those blocks on with the correct leverage and with the right technique, even though he's an undersized guy. So that's going to be the big knock, but he's a bit of a project, but he's perfect for the NFL now, which has become a pace and space league that's all about defenders who can go sideline to sideline. He can go sideline to sideline, and you can't teach that, and he's got that. Now, what you need to teach him is how to take on blocks and how to use his leverage and how to add on bulk and increase play strength without losing flexibility, without losing speed, burst, and explosion, which I think he can do, especially in the right system. I love that Dan Quinn likes DeMarvion Overshown because he is a spread baby and he is versatile. Dan Quinn has embraced positionless football since he got to the Cowboys. When you're talking about the way he uses his three safeties, which makes that defense itself malleable and multiple. J-Run Curse is a guy they move around the chessboard a lot. Keanu Neal, when they first brought him in, was the same way. Micah Parsons, most versatile chess piece on on any defense in the NFL. And DeMarvion Overshown can be versatile in that way. I think if he's in the right system, his development will be accelerated. If he's in the wrong system, honestly, he could end up being washed out of the league. Like that's how crucial I think it is. The fit's going to be for DeMarvion Overshown. The fit's got to be right.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why with a guy like Dan Quinn, we saw what he did. And Overshown's not Micah Parsons, but we've seen Micah Parsons be like, oh, I could have been a good linebacker in the league. Like I could have been a Pro Bowl linebacker in the league. Or I could be what I'm doing now, which is one of the top 3 defensive players in the league.
Exactly.
So
Great point.
could have been one or the other. And so for Overshown, the scale has to be scaled back a little bit. But it goes into, hey, man, I could be a Pro Bowler or I can get washed out of the league.
Yep, in the right system.
Yeah.
I remember my man, Nathan Vasher, great player, but he ended up in the perfect system in Chicago with Lovie Smith. He was an all-pro.
Yeah.
And then ended up with Detroit, a couple other teams, and it was just kind of he never found the right fit again. Fit is big in the NFL. It really can make the difference between, like I said, your accelerated development because that compatibility in the right system with your right skill set, meaning somebody drafted you with the vision of how to utilize and weaponize you. Like, oh, I got a plan for this guy. That's what you want, ideally. And I think that would be the case for DeMarvion Overshown with a really, really a really progressive defensive coordinator, defensive mind. Let's go to Moro Ojomo. Moro Ojomo probably made the most money out of any of the prospects so far at the NFL Combine. He did put on the show. He's one of them freaks. I told you the NFL is full of freaks. It's football freaks and football geeks. Hell, he might be both because he's smart as hell too. His football IQ is through the roof. But he put on a show about physical freakishness at the Combine. So his reps on the bench were 29 reps on the bench, third among D tackles. He 9 foot 4 inch broad jump. That's fourth among D tackles. 33-inch vertical, second among D tackles. His 10-yard split in his 40 was tied for fifth among D tackles. And his 40-yard dash was seventh among D tackles. But, I mean, who the hell wants their defensive tackle running 40 yards? So, basically, every, testing, obviously every situation they have to test his ability, whether it be, freakish physical ability, whether it be on the bench in terms of his strength, or whether it be explosion in terms of his broad jump or the vertical, or whether it be just his BGO, ball get off, and that 10-yard split. He excelled in all of them. He was top 5 in terms of all the physical measurements for a defensive tackle and the measurables based on the testing. And he's only 21. He was on the 40 acres for 5 years, and he's 21 years old. And he is a really, really high IQ player. No question about that. And I love his versatility. This is a guy that played on the edge for Texas, 114 snaps on the edge, 244 snaps on the interior, so he can manufacture depth for you because you can move him around the front. He's 6'3", 280, and he's still a baby. Still a baby. 21, that's a baby. And one of 5 Power 5 interior defensive lineman that graded as a top 15 pass rusher and run defender by Pro Football Focus. So he's a project in a sense, just because, man, he's just so young. But man, for right now, I think he's a player that projects to be someone you can move around the front. You can play multiple shades up front, inside and outside. I think there is some defensive coordinators probably salivating over getting him in a late round with a late round pick or middle round pick.
If you look at his arc at Texas as well, that the improvement he's shown from year to year, and especially this last year where, he showed that he could be that next level player.
Yeah.
And then you see this at the combine, you're like, oh man, we may be scratching the surface. This is one of those guys that, it could be the diamond in the rough guy this could be hey man, we get him late, we steal him away, we can't let him go to undrafted because
totally
we
agree.
cannot let that.
Yeah.
But we grab him late, and man, if we put him in, especially you get the right system or the right coach, we have a good D-line coach or somebody, we really think this guy could be something special, and he's definitely worth a pick.
I know. I see Seahawks getting them somehow. Just like, I mean, then he
Just
say
one of
like
those
Pete
good yeah.
Carroll guy, like, oh no, we had him high on our board. I was like, oh man.
No,
But
I could see him. I get 49ers guy.
49ers
When they love drafting
stockpiling D linemen.
and just a guy they're like, look, we don't even need you to really play as much. You're 21. We'll let you get a few reps your first year.
Yeah.
And then it's a few more reps. And by the time you're in your second or third year, you're getting a lot more reps.
I want to say, because they had two Longhorn D linemen. Because Charles Aminu, was it Hassan Ridgeway I'm thinking about? That's with the
Possibly,
49ers for a little while too. But either way, no, I think you're totally right. There's some team is going to think of more Ojimo as a pet project. Like, no.
Yeah.
We getting him in a minute. We don't get him before everybody else will, because everybody else thinks he's going to drop in the late rounds, and we're going to essentially take a chance on him in the middle rounds because we know his upside is tremendous.
Exactly. It's always that. What's the ceiling versus the floor? And once you get into day 3, it's really about ceiling.
It really is. I totally agree.
Because
Yeah.
all these guys may be washed out of the league. Like, they may not make your roster. A round 4, 5, 6 guy.
Depending on how good your team is.
You're like, hey, man, this may be a practice squad guy for us. So
Forgot about them increasing the practice squad. That's big for a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
Man, and now you can be a veteran essentially and be on the practice squad. When
Yeah.
I was there, you couldn't be a veteran on the practice squad.
yeah, your time ran out.
Yeah, Rod Beater, I'd have milked that practice squad. Rod Beater been on that practice squad for 6, 7, 8 years, man.
But you would have been one of the places
Good
with
money.
free lunch.
No, first of all, if I would have been a student athlete during this time, I'd have milked the COVID years for everything they're worth.
You been Brock Cunningham.
Exactly. Let's be honest here. All right, COVID was a horrible thing. All right, and it really was a horrible thing, and a ton of people suffered during COVID. But a few people, actually, because of everything that went down, had benefits. They basically benefited from some of the COVID, either adjustments that we made for our society or some of the COVID restrictions. Even student athletes getting the extra COVID year
And with NIL?
with NIL, dude, that was hugely beneficial. Now they needed it to sort everything out because people couldn't play, and then different conferences doing different things. So I get it, but man, that extra year, there are guys getting on their 6th, 7th years now of eligibility. They get master's degrees on it with NIL. It's fantastic. It's good. I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
But it definitely was something that was beneficial. That the COVID crisis for them was a little bit. They benefited from it.
Unless you were one of those teams projected to win it all in that year and it got canceled. Or unless you're one of those teams,
That's true.
then it's probably you're like, yeah, I would have taken one less year in college and had a national championship.
That's true.
But that was not that many teams.
Now you're right. So for the teams, I'm not saying they benefited, but individual student athletes,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Individual student athletes, they benefited from. Hey, nothing wrong with it too. By the way, I'm happy that they did benefit from it. They needed it. They deserved it. But anyway, getting back to it, Kendrick Coburn was the other Longhorn who really tested at the NFL Combine. And I'm not sure if he did himself any favors. I'm not sure if he helped himself. I'm not sure he really could have at the Combine as a D tackle. Unless you're doing something that is like Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson type of freakishness. You're a D tackle. It's all about what you've done on film pretty much. Nobody's expecting you to come win the NFL Combine. He had 24 reps on the bench. That was good for 7th at his position. 8'5" broad jump, 10th at his position. 27-inch vertical, 11th at his position. 10-yard split, 1.82, 13th at his position. 5.2 40-yard dash, 11th. None of those numbers are bad. None of them are stellar or spectacular. where Keandre Coburn is going to make his money, and I said this earlier, Keandre, at this point now, if you look at the construction of NFL rosters, every roster needs a Coburn. Hell, you might need two. You know what I mean? It's like, sir, every house needs a plunger. Like, there's certain items like every house has got to have. Every roster needs a Coburn.
Yeah.
Because the NFL has become obsessed with the zone blocking schemes, which essentially is going to stress defenses sideline to sideline horizontally. So they've built their defenses now with these hybrid, sleek defenders who can run sideline to sideline to stop and neutralize the zone blocking schemes. Well, the counter for the offense has literally been counters. They're running more counters. They're running more power schemes. They're running more gap schemes to run right at these undersized defenders. And see, I know they can handle speed sideline to sideline, but can they handle brute force right up there, right down their freaking throat? Can they handle that? And that's why teams now, they're running more power. The NFL in 2021, teams averaged 4.2 yards per rush on power run concepts, 5.3 yards per rush in 2022 on power run concepts. The counter in 2021, 4.4 yards per rush, 5.2 yards per rush in 2022. Teams are having more success running power schemes and counter schemes, and the inside zone and outside zone has basically been, essentially flatlined. It's been what it is. I mean, inside zone, 4 yards per rush in 2021, 4.4 yards per rush teams averaged in 2022 running inside zone. When they ran outside zone, 4.3 yards per rush. When they ran outside zone in 2022, 4.3 yards per rush. So that's been pretty level. I mean, that really hasn't increased at all. What's increased is the effectiveness of the power run concepts, the counter run concepts, and the frequency of teams running them. Teams ran power and counter 28% of the time in 2021. They're running it 32% of the time in 2022. And they're running inside zone and outside zone at about the same rate that they were in 2021 and 2022. That's been pretty level. It has not changed. What has changed and increased has been the yards per rush of power and gap and counter schemes and run concepts and the frequency that they're running those. So what you need is an old school kind of run stuffing, space eating, double team taking, gap clogging, wide body, old school D tackle, a Coburn that can just clog up those gaps, that can eat up space, and that can take on double teams, and they will do it happily. And the NFL, we saw that multiple times this year, right? The Dallas Cowboys, they needed Jonathan Hankins. They traded for him because they had a good defense, but what was the one fatal flaw of the defense? They couldn't stop the power running game. So they got Jonathan Hankins to help him out. Eagles, same thing. They went in, got Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, and because Jordan Davis, the guy they drafted to be their Coburn, he got hurt. Because everybody needs a Coburn, or two, like a plunger. Every house needs one. You don't know what you put it by the toilet, you forget about it, you need it. Just in case when the fit hits the shan, you gonna need it.
Yeah.
That's Coburn.
And if you're a defensive tackle you're talking about, you need two plungers at all times.
Hey, well, snacks.
Snacks.
No doubt about that. But yeah, so don't worry, Coburn, he's got a place. Some teams going to fall in love with Coburn because every team needs one of those guys. Hell, you might need two of those guys. So I wouldn't worry about Coburn. Coburn's going to be fine. All right, we come back. We got to talk about these Bijan Robinson draft odds. We'll get into that because Bijan and Rojo, they're going to be performing at the Combine this weekend. So we'll get into that. And also, there's been talk that the Dallas Cowboys offense is going to change 30 to 35%. Stephen Jones has said this. Dak has said this. And now Mike McCarthy has said this. They all say the same thing. It's either 25 to 30% or 30 to 35%. They're right there in that range. So what does that entail? Like, what are we talking about changing if it's only going to change 30%? I actually went rabbit holing and I hypothesized exactly what conceptually, schematically could be a part of that 30%. We'll discuss that on the other side. Right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. We all know that time is money, and so do my friends over at Apple Leasing because they're in the business of saving you both. They're going to save you time, save you money, and also find you great value. We know the car market these days can be a pain. Let's just be straight up about it. You might need someone to help you walk you through the process of that. That's what Apple Leasing is here for. They're going to walk you through the process of helping you find the car that you want, the payment you want, and the price that you want. That's what they do. That's their business model. That's why they've been doing business here in Austin for decades. Apple Leasing has the ability to put you in any make or model vehicle that you want. The professionals over at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car you want, and all it takes is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They'll even give you an estimate of the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest, easy lease allows you to have a lot more flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best. Inflation is out of control. It's through the roof. It's never been more expensive to buy a new car, buy a used car, or buy anything for that matter. So leasing actually makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. So call Apple Leasing today, 512-346-9977. That's 512-346-9977, and let them see how much money they can save you. Apple Leasing gets all the same discounts, all the same incentives that the dealers do, except my friends at Apple Leasing, they pass those savings on to you, the customer. So give them a call, 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. We'll get to some Cowboys discussion here in just a second. First, I want to get to these Bijan Robinson draft odds. Actually, the good folks over at DraftKings, they're big fans of Bijan Robinson, and Action Network, too. There's been a lot of Bijan Robinson-related articles being thrown out there, and one of them is giving odds for every draft spot, right? For every different team and every draft slot, and what team and what slot have the best odds of drafting Bijan. They go through it and they break it down. And I thought it was pretty interesting. So the teams basically, they give with the best, or at least slots, best picks, I should say, with the best odds to draft Bijan. One of the first one that comes up is the Atlanta Falcons at number 8. They got him at plus 750 at number 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. They say Falcons need a future quarterback, and they need considerable help on defense. However, adding Robinson to a group that includes Drake London and Kyle Pitts would give them one of the league's best young trios of skill position players. Additionally, Arthur Smith leaned heavily on the run last year, just as he did when he was with the Titans as their OC. If the quarterbacks Atlanta likes are gone, it wouldn't be a surprise if Smith got a new headliner for his backfield. So that's the first pick where there's reasonable odds here, at least low odds comparatively to the rest of these picks. Hell, because number 9, Carolina, with the next pick, they're at plus 2,000, just to give you a little comparison. And the Raiders ahead of that Atlanta pick, they're at plus 3,500. But they got that Atlanta pick at number 8 at plus 750. So they got
that's your best first shot.
That's your best first shot. Thank you. Great way of putting it. The next best shot, and probably the best shot overall, at least one of the best shots overall in their breakdown of selection odds for drafting Bijan, they got the Eagles at number 10 at plus 275. Remember, the other one was plus 750 with the Atlanta Falcons. They got him at plus 275. Said this would be one of, if not the best landing spot for Robinson. That said, it would be a genuine surprise. A genuine surprise to say, if the Philadelphia Eagles spent the 10th pick on a running back. There you go. A Freudian slip for me. Maybe it would be. I've been saying the Eagles should do it. They can afford to do it. They got 2 first-round picks. They could always trade down and then get Bijan there too, because it would be a luxury pick for them. But I heard Daniel Jeremiah, who used to be a scout, and I believe he said at the time he worked for Philadelphia one time too, he said there's no way Howie Roseman would ever draft a running back that high. Like, just no shot. So maybe not.
No, and that's, again, I mean, Atlanta, it kind of makes sense because they're that team.
Mm-hmm.
But anyone else, I don't see taking him in the top 15.
That's basically what they're saying too. But those are the best shots, they're saying, best odds if he were to go in the top 15. After that, just scrolling here, because, I mean, it's really ridiculous odds. Okay, how about this one? At Detroit, they have him at pick 18 at plus 1,200, which is not terrible. Remember, they got 2 picks, too. The Detroit Lions also got 2 picks in this draft, so they could decide to do something like that, too.
But that team needs so much defense.
They do need a lot.
And they have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Adams. Or Jamal Williams.
That's a good point.
Like, Jamal Williams just beat Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown record. And, like, they have a really good 1-2 punch already. I get adding Bijan is better than either one of those guys.
Very true.
But at the same part, are you really going to...
It's not a luxury pick for them.
Yeah, it's not a luxury pick.
For Eagles,
if I'm running that offense this season, I'm not upsetting the apple cart on offense. I'm going to go, let's try and not allow 45 points a game.
No, their offense is top 5 in the league.
Yeah, so let's let that offense, and let's keep rolling with that offense and then try and fix this defense a little bit.
And they got 2 good running backs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Jamal Williams is not a great overall back, but he's a great change of pace back. Yeah. And DeAndre Swift is a really good back if he can stay healthy. I'm
with you. No, I agree with you 100% on that one. Right after them, they got the Bucks at 19 at plus 2,000. But that's a little high. But honestly, I can see the Bucks doing that. The Bucks, they have a lot of needs, but they don't have right now anything offensively with Brady gone. And I don't see them having an offensive identity without Tom Brady. They could decide, let's just go with Bijan. I would hate that for Bijan.
I would too.
Hate it for Bijan.
Well, and it's just like drafting a running back when you have nothing else. you're like the window of when you're going to have to pay him to when the rest of the pieces fall in. You're basically going to just ruin a few years of this running back's career and then trade him or let him go in free agency because you're not going to offer him that second deal because you're going to need it for other pieces to get over that hump.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem right, does it?
No, it's not right for Bijan, but if they're going with the young quarterback from Florida, I forget his name.
Anthony Richardson? Or you're talking about from last year?
Yes, the one they drafted for right behind Trask. Trask?
Yeah.
Kyle
Trask.
Trask, the one they drafted behind Brady. If that's the guy they're going with, I could see them going, he just needs some help, and we're just going to hand it off to Bijan. That would be terrible for Bijan's career, though.
Yeah, I think there's other running backs you could get that would be.
You could just make him a workhorse. Run him into the ground.
And I don't even mean like you can get a running back later in the draft, or because it's a good running back draft.
It's a great running back draft, actually.
There's going to be running back free agents because there's always running back free agents.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really good running back draft this year.
I feel like there's a lot of options, and unless you need the guy, if you're just like, we just need a guy, then that's why you need Tom Brady to win because, man, that is not a well-run organization.
Yeah, that's also hurting Bijan a little bit, too, is that there's really good backs that you can get in the second, third round, like quality guys. Yeah. We even talked about Rojo's going to be available in the third, fourth round somewhere, and he's a damn good back.
And I mean, if you want to sign a running back, Miles Sanders is a free agent. Josh Jacobs has not, I do not believe, has signed his fifth franchise tag yet.
Yeah, you're right.
So, like, there's going to be good running backs that are available as well.
The Tampa Bay Bucks at number 19, they have them at plus 2,000, as I mentioned. The Baltimore Ravens, though, also really good odds at pick 22 to draft Bijan. They have them at plus 1,200. Now, that actually does make sense, too. Either way, with Lamar Jackson or without Lamar Jackson, Bijan Robinson makes sense for the Baltimore Ravens at 22. But the Baltimore Ravens are an organization that them drafting a running back in the first round, I'm not sure. But there, 22 is good value for a Bijan Robinson. That's really for the best running back in the draft. I don't like drafting running backs in a lottery of the NFL. 22, that's more reasonable in terms of the value to pick in the value position.
I mean, and I know J.K. Dobbins has been hurt and hasn't equaled up, but I don't know if you can get rid of him already and then not go get a wide receiver for Lamar Jackson. If you're going to keep Lamar Jackson, I feel like you got to give J.K. Dobbins another year. Because he has shown ability to be really good if he can stay on the field.
They like to stockpile running backs, though.
The
Ravens do. They stockpile.
But that's what I'm saying is like you can have J.K. Dobbins and then go sign a couple other guys that are a little bit later in their career that are just need a place to land and have a good running back core and use those picks. Again, another team that desperately needs a lot of other things other than a running back. In that first round, it's just to guarantee a contract for that many years for a running back. And I know it's Bijan, but this doesn't seem like the wise move unless you're a team that is already in that window and now you can go, oh, no, we can go pick up this guy because he's going to help our chance to win a Super Bowl.
At 26 for the Dallas Cowboys, they have the Bijan Robinson odds at plus 500, which is pretty damn low. If you compare it to the rest of these odds, and Dallas Cowboys are a semi-contender for Robinson with Elliott in decline and Tony Pollard hitting free agency, also with a major leg injury. Jerry Jones drafts superstar Longhorn running back. Certainly sounds like a potential late April headline. I will say Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, they do like drafting the best player at a certain position. They did it in 2010 with Dez Bryant. They thought they had the best wide receiver. Tyron Smith in 2011, best tackle. 2012, they thought Morris Claiborne was the best corner. 2013, they thought Travis Frederick was the best center. In 2016, they thought Zeke was the best running back. 2020, CeeDee Lamb, best wide receiver. 2021, Michael Parsons, best linebacker. 2022, Tyler Smith, they thought he was the best guard in the draft. If they deem Bijan Robinson, and he is, to be the best running back in the draft, on their board, that almost gives you more value on their big board for some reason.
Well, and I think that on most people's big board, once we're getting into the 20s, Bijan Robinson will be the best player available.
No question he will be.
And so on most big boards, he will be sitting there at number one. And so if Jerry looks at it and goes, this is not only the best running back available, he is the best player available. We're not going to keep Zeke. We're not going to keep Tony Pollard. And Mike McCarthy's telling everybody we're about to run the damn ball.
Yeah,
we might need to go get a running back.
I like that pick more and more, honestly, that I see it. I don't know if he's going to be available at 26. If he is available at 26 and the Cowboys pass on him, that would be, in my opinion, a mistake because the value of the best running back in the draft, and some people are saying the top 5 player overall in the draft at 26, That's an unbelievable value. Can't pass that up.
Yeah, and you don't want to get Randy Moss.
Again. Buffalo Bills at 27, right behind the Cowboys. They're at plus 400, so they got better odds even than the Dallas Cowboys. And I've said before on this show, the Eagles and the Bills are the two teams that I would be most afraid of if I was an NFL fan of any other team, of Bijan landing there, because that could potentially put them over the top. Bijan with the Bills, that's scary. In the same backfield with Josh Allen.
It's scary if they use him.
That's scary. They would use him. You
think they would. You would think they would. They have not even tried to use any running backs.
Had nothing like Bijan.
No, I agree.
Yeah, he's built different. We all agree. That's about it. Actually, take that back. The Eagles at pick number 30. Also, plus 275 with the best odds to draft Bijan of any of the 31 selections that will be in the first round. So, best odds, to recap, Philadelphia at 10 and at 30 are plus 275. Then you have Buffalo at plus 400. Then the Cowboys. So, Vegas is giving the Cowboys the third best odds of landing Bijan Robinson in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, if he falls there, then that's to me the easy pick, because because it's a desperate need for you. And even if Tony Pollard's coming back, you need to have another change of pace back, and Zeke's not the guy anymore. So, like, I think that it makes plenty of sense there. I think it makes sense for the Eagles as well.
It does make sense for the Eagles. I would see the Eagles trading down. I can see them trading down from that 10 pick to 15 or 16 and trying to get Bijan. I can see that too. So yeah, all right, we'll come back. I know I promised you guys I'll get into the Dallas Cowboys. We can do that, I promise you, in the 6 o'clock. We'll get to the Dallas Cowboys working on a deal at the Combine. Also, they keep referencing the 20 to 30% of the offense that's going to change. I'll try to break down schematically, conceptually, what that 30% is, all right? What entails that. We'll get into that, all that more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. We all know that Austin is a beautiful city. It's a beautiful day outside, actually, as well. But thanks in no small part to the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482. They've been helping shape Greater Austin since 1935. As the city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. Ironworkers Local Union 482 are hiring 3,000 people right now for a huge project. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of this great city. Maximize your potential and be your best self today by applying at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9. The Horn is a 512 Friday. We play jams from very talented human beings who actually they do a lot of great work right here in the ATX, the live music capital of the world, and you have a chance to see them live. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the Domestic Tall Boys, and they're playing Friday at Swan Dive.
That is a great name for a band.
Solid band name.
That is a solid band name. Domestic Tall Boys. I mean, everybody, when they hear that, if you're in a band, you're upset you didn't come up with it first.
Yeah.
That is damn good. Okay, I got to listen to this audio in the break because Barstool is claiming that C.J. Stroud, when he was asked about what quarterbacks he looks up to in his QB role models at the combine, that it's attracting a lot of attention. Apparently, he threw out Michael Vick and Deshaun Watson, and people are criticizing his role models. But he's talking about on the field, like so even off the field with Vick. I guess that would have been good because he talked about the redemption of Vic.
Yeah,
and him learning
I'd
his
still
lesson.
stay away from it at the combine.
I'm just trying to explain what the thought. There's some audio. We'll play the audio on the other side. How about that? I'll send the audio to you. Because right now I don't have the quote, but they just said that there was two of the role models he mentioned when he was asked about who are his quarterback role models. Yeah. So, that can't be the case. I can't believe it. Can't be true. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later. We'll talk more NFL Combine.
Is he trying to go to a lower team? Was he mad that everyone's talking about Bryce Young being young or being too small? He's like, man, Bryce Young's he's a little too small, isn't he? You're like, you know who I like?
I'm hoping that this is somehow fake news, but it's on Barstool, and Barstool usually doesn't just throw out random stuff.
I saw it on other sites, too.
Did you?
It's a Barstool tweeted it.
Okay.
And I've seen other sites pick up their tweet.
I hope it's like a miscommunication or something like that. Like the question was weird or something that he ain't just throw out there. But if he did, hey, I don't know. It's hard to explain that one away. The Michael Vick one, I said, you can explain that one because you can get to the redemption story and how you learn from mistakes and you come out a better person, a better man. You pay the Deshaun Watson one is a little bit more difficult.
It's a little early on that one to say the redemption story.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But I will say, I guess he could say there were no charges filed. That was.
Yeah.
I agree. Either way.
Also, I might go with somebody who's won more playoff games than either one of these.
I would too.
I feel like
he's got bad quarterback heroes.
And C.J. Stroud didn't run the ball at Ohio State.
I would. You could just pick better quarterbacks overall. Aside from the off the field issues, you could just pick better quarterbacks.
This is the one time he could have said Dak Prescott and got less trouble.
You could have went. You could have went anywhere. You could have went Kyler Murray and still been up better off. You'd have been better off with a Kyler would have been like, we got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe he's trolling us. It could be a troll job. Right?
That combine seems like a bad place to do a troll job, doesn't it?
to troll someone at a job interview seems like a bad thing.
When everybody already wants to take, when everybody is already like, well, man, Anthony Richardson, look at him, and Will Levis, oh, look at it, we're salivating over all these guys right behind you. And you're just like, you like them? Y'all like them? Take them.
Patrick's gonna get the sound. We're gonna play the audio so we can be fair about this thing. I saw all I did was see this tweet, and I haven't heard the audio. So we'll listen to the audio and then we'll judge. All right. So maybe
then we will judge.
Probably a little too harshly, honestly. All right. So we'll get into that on the other side. Also, updates from the NFL Combine. I'll tell you what the 30% that the Cowboys are referencing that are going to change with the Cowboys playbook. I'll tell you at least what I believe that entails. We'll get into that on the other side. Cowboys working a deal at the Combine. That's also out there. Brandon Cooks, possible trade. That's out there. And Lamar Jackson, another update on the stalemate between he and the Ravens. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104 Now The Horn. 512 Friday, we play jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings who you have the pleasure of being able to see right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Lou Apollo. He's playing Saturday at Central Machine Works.
Yeah, I like this. This is a jam right here. Yeah.
Cool. New stuff. New artist. New stuff.
Yeah, I like this. This is good workout music stuff. I like this. All right, my man Patrick, always hooking you up with new jams, trying to broaden your horizons. If you missed any of these selections for 512 Friday, please go catch them on the website, hornfm.com. That's the best way to do it. We'll get back to some Combine updates here. We'll also, speaking of the Combine, interesting story coming out of the Combine related to C.J. Stroud and a question that he had to answer at the podium that has become rather controversial with the answer that he gave. We'll get to that coming up. We'll also talk about the Cowboys. The word on the street is, through the grapevine, that they are working a deal at the NFL Combine right now. Big deal. All right, the Cowboys are brewing. We'll get into that, too, coming up here in this segment. And also talk about the latest update on one Lamar Jackson. Next segment, we'll preview Texas versus Kansas a little bit and talk about their seeding, which, man, tournament seeding, where you're talking about the Big 12 tournament, or you're talking about the big dance in March Madness. Either one looks like there could be a little movement with Texas seeding, considering how they are ending the season right now, and they've lost 2 in a row for the first time all season, trying to bounce back. Big game coming up versus Kansas at home this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that, but before we do that, let's get into this story that we referenced last segment. My man Patrick, he is the man. He's one of the hardest working members of the Arian family, so he's already pulled the audio of C.J. Stroud at the Combine, so we can have some context on this quote that has gone a little bit viral. So I don't know. The question's not in this, right?
I don't think so.
I don't even know what the question is, so I'm not going to act like I do, because I have not seen, I believe on this Barstool story, they don't give the question that was asked. But you can, from context clues, if you will, all right, you can kind of figure they asked him about what quarterbacks he looks up to, who he patterned his game after. It's a question along those lines. And here is C.J. Stroud's response.
One of the reasons I wore number 7 was because Michael Vick. So he inspired me not only just to be athletic and use my athleticism, but as a black quarterback to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. And that's something that he was very underrated in. And then I looked up to Deshaun Watson a lot as somebody I feel like I have a similar playing style to. And then Joe Burrow, being able to create, not being the fastest guy ever, being able to kind of extend plays, throw guys off of you, just be tough. And that's something that I feel like I'll do in this game.
1 out of 3 ain't bad. Okay. He did say Joe Burrow, and I threw Joe Burrow in there a little bit. Like I said, the Mike Vick thing can be justified, because you can just go through, not only did you obviously be inspired by what he did on the field and his style of play, but then to kind of justify the reason, hey, man, you know what? And he went through something off the field, trial, tribulations, and was able to overcome that, become a better person, pay his debt to society, and show us about redemption and, being able to, even when you do something wrong, all right, being able to come back after that and still play football at a high level. Maybe it could have been something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way.
But this is also like around the era that if he would have said Steve McNair.
Steve McNair would have been a good one, too?
Yeah, but Steve McNair also, you'd be like, how much games did you watch of Steve McNair? Because Michael Vick, the age doesn't work out for me.
Steve McNair would have been a good. That should have been the one. That should have been the one. Steve McNair would have been a good one.
Quarterbacks around that era.
Dual threat quarterback, because he wants apparently dual threat. He brought up dual threat, so apparently that's something that inspired him. So
yeah.
I think your idea about Steve McNair would have been way better. I don't know if him and his agent they rehearsed it or practiced this question. That would have been it. Steve McNair.
I don't think they practiced this question.
No, I don't think they did. But I mean, he gave a genuine answer.
He gave a genuine answer.
They should teach him about the history of dual threat quarterbacks so that then he would be better equipped. But those are the guys that inspired him. Those are the guys. But I like your Steve McNair one. Hell, Lamar Jackson's a really good dual threat quarterback. Donovan McNabb, Randall Cunningham, Cam Newton. Hell, Russell Wilson was a good one until like last year.
Yeah.
Well, I guess better options than two of the more controversial options that he threw out there.
Yeah, you could have picked guys that have never faced jail time. Like Deshaun Watson did not ever. He was not. But
no charge.
There was a point that it could have been.
There were multiple allegations of sexual misconduct. Yes.
Let's spend less time in a courtroom.
But no charges at all. So
Yeah.
I guess he could have. Yeah, it's just really. It's two random, bizarre examples to bring up of quarterbacks that inspired him. Out of all the quarterbacks, I'm sure he's watched a ton of them too.
It's like the NFL was like, you know what? Combine's not going the way we want it to yet. You know what? We need somebody to just sandbag their interview.
I know. I can't. I don't know. Like I said, he must have just been thinking purely about the football and none of the other stuff even remotely became aware to him at all. He just didn't think. He was talking about football on the field and what they've done, and that's fun. I mean, that's what that's what the combine's about.
Texter did point out a good point. You know who C.J. Stroud's agent is?
Is it Mulligetta?
It's Mulligetta. So he may personally know Deshaun Watson as well and have met him, and so he's like, "Oh, that's my guy now," and he's not thinking of anything else. He's just like, "Oh no, Mulligetta put us together to talk about the NFL." Okay. And I am not thinking, oh, this guy did a bunch of bad stuff to women. He's thinking, oh, this guy was really nice to me.
Allegedly
Really nice to me.
Oh, no, I'm just messing with you.
No, I get it. No, so that does make sense.
That's a great point.
So I can understand it. I understand all of it.
And maybe he met Michael Vick, and Michael Vick had a little,
Yeah, I can believe Michael Vick
went
around.
Or something.
Yeah.
That's true too. Good point.
I can believe all that.
Yeah.
Also, Mulligetta should have told you, don't say those things in interviews.
It's just, like I said, you could have said,
hey,
Jalen Hurts just played in the Super Bowl.
Maybe, you know what I think it is? Mulligetta wants a challenge.
Hey,
I know he's like, look, man, I got Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract. Hey, man, go in the interview and tell me like Mike Vick and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Mulligetta's bored. At this point, he's a Johnny Cochran of NFL agents at this point, and he's just trying to figure out the next task for him, the next challenge for him. But you're right. I mean, I did not know. That's a great point, and that may be very well all it is that, hey, it's just a quid pro quo. It's just like, hey, man, I need you to say something positive about Deshaun. Could it be something as simple as that?
We did just get some breaking news on the Cowboys. Ian Rappaport is reporting that the Cowboys plan to put a franchise tag on Tony Pollard if he is not signed by the deadline.
Okay. Well,
So that would be the guy of Tony Pollard will be a Cowboy next season, one way or the other.
And they need to cut Zeke then.
They do. I mean, but that is interesting enough news because it means Dalton Schultz is gone or he has to be re-signed, but Dalton Schultz will not get the franchise tag. And so we know they only get one. They're going to put it on
Tony Pollard, that makes more sense. He's your most explosive player on offense, arguably, other than CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb is coming back, and he's on, obviously, a rookie deal. And you got to make sure you have as many proven commodities around Dak as possible. And it's only really two because you're losing Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
So you only really got two. I know Michael Gallup's coming back, but he's coming back off of a year that was considered an underwhelming year.
Yeah. He needed to progress, and he did. I mean, and I get you're coming off an injury, but again, he was a wide receiver 3 trying to move him up to wide receiver 2, and then the injury got in his way, and he didn't. I mean, he looked like at best a wide receiver 3 this year, so he needs to take that step and rehab in the offseason and get back to being a wide receiver 2.
Even with Tony Pollard being now franchise tag, at least he will be tagged by the Cowboys if they don't sign him to a new deal or whatever.
Yeah.
I still think if Bijan's there at 26, you take him.
Yeah, I mean, you need to, and we know Tony Pollard is not an every down back.
Yeah. I know it's crazy, but
yeah,
it's just because it's too much value to pass up at that spot.
And if you're going to run the damn ball, as Mike McCarthy wants to say,
you're gonna need a running back.
You need two.
you need more.
You need two in this league.
You're right. Yes, you do, brother. I totally agree with that. Speaking of the Cowboys, there's some rumblings that the Cowboys are getting ready to make a deal at the Combine, and the Locked On Cowboys podcast, I believe, is where we got the audio. It was Bobby Belt and Brian Broaddus who were speaking about rumors at the Combine. And apparently there are multiple rumors at the Combine that the Cowboys are working on a deal. Nobody knows exactly what the deal is. Do we have this sound, Patrick? Here is Brian Broaddus and Bobby Belt talking about these rumors at the Combine about the Cowboys working on a deal.
Stephen Jones did say from the Combine that they are working on something big. And Michael Gehlken said the same thing. Well, excuse me. Gehlken said it, and I think Stephen was kind of talking about it as a possibility. But Michael Gehlken, who's very plugged into this team, we talked about him, Todd Archer, very plugged in. A lot of talented writers, men and women here. But Gehlken, I wonder if Gehlken off to the side got somebody to tell him, hey, they're working on a big, big deal. That's why I threw the Diggs name out there. maybe one of these wide receivers or something like that. But
that's the case.
That's the case, and yeah.
It's a very interesting proposition. They definitely, I think, are motivated to make this football team better. Now, how they interpret that and how they interpret making the football team better may be different than how the fans would interpret it. But I think
it's probably Odell Beckham. It's probably just Odell Beckham.
I love at the end he's like, it's probably just Odell Beckham Jr. And honestly, it might just be Odell Beckham Jr. Or maybe it's just what Patrick just referenced.
It could just be Tony Pollard.
They're working on a deal.
Yeah, and that was they're like, look, we're working on it, but it may not get done by Tuesday, so we're going to franchise tag him if not, and still work on that deal.
Yep, it could be that too, or it could be them actually trying to make a trade. Maybe obviously it could be something that's for the draft or something that's not unveiled into the draft, but maybe because this is essentially NFL's convention, all the coaches, all the execs, all the owners, everybody's there, easy to make deals, everybody's accessible. Maybe they're working on something that can happen around the draft that will bring more weapons to Dak Prescott.
Let me ask you this. What would you consider a big deal for the Cowboys? Like, what would have to, for it to be an actual big deal, not the Tony Pollard, not Odell Beckham, what would have to be a big deal?
That would shock me?
You would say, you would come
me?
on these airwaves and go, the Cowboys actually made a big deal.
Oh, man. That would have to be something crazy like them trading for Jalen Ramsey.
Okay.
It's
something like
That's
like Ramsey.
Big deal. That's a big
Brandon
deal.
Cooks. Does Brandon Cooks fall into big deal?
Brandon Cooks, I don't know if it's a big deal. It's a good deal.
It's a good deal. Well, depending on the deal.
It depends on how much the Cowboys are going to pay of that contract and how much the Texans are going to pay of that contract.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's a good. I don't know if it's a big deal because Brandon Cooks, is he considered a game changer anymore?
No, because he's a wide receiver 2 on the Texans. Or in the Cowboys, sorry.
And you're exactly
He's
right.
a wide receiver 2 on the Cowboys because CeeDee Lamb's a wide receiver 1.
But then that'd be good. Getting back to your point, Michael Gallup could naturally fall back into his wide receiver 3 role.
It does, but now you're paying the whole, we don't want to pay our wide receivers this much. You are now paying a ton of money a wide receiver.
That's true. That's why I don't. The Brandon Cooks deal is only a good deal for the Cowboys if they can sucker the Texans into paying most of that contract and taking that dead money. Because I still think he's a big cap hit.
Yeah.
I believe he's close to around $17-18 million.
Oh, yeah, and I think he has another year after this, too, that's going to be on the cap hit as well.
Yes, he does. He does.
So it's a multi-year. You don't even get to deal with it unless he's going to restructure on a deal, but you don't know if he's going to do that either.
You could restructure. That's a good point. He could agree because he won't restructure with the Texans because he doesn't like them anymore. He wants out.
Exactly.
If he wants to be somewhere, I could say he's a team guy, though.
So he could come over and go, hey, let's restructure and make this a longer-term deal. So we've only got 1 year left. Let's move it up to 4 years. And spread the money out, but give me more on the back end.
And getting back to this point about Brandon Cooks, it was, and I got this from Sports Illustrated. So there is a report coming out of Frisco from CowboysSI.com that Houston is taking trade calls, of course, about Brandon Cooks. And remember, Dallas was interested in Brandon Cooks this past season, last October.
At the trade deadline.
Yeah, but they couldn't apparently.
Apparently they were on the phone up until the trade deadline.
And the Texans, basically, because the price tag was so high for Brandon Cooks, because Nick Caserio stupidly renegotiated and extended him without any reason at all. So his price tag was bloated, basically. And the Cowboys wanted the Texans to take on the majority of that salary, and the Texans refused. I believe that was the sticking point.
The Texans wanted the picks. And they wanted the salary gone.
Yeah, you can't have both.
And you can't have both. You had to take one or the other. They should have just paid the salary and taken the picks, but that's not what they wanted.
Yeah, so basically, however, issues tied to Cooks' $18 million guaranteed 2023 year on the veteran receiver's contract created an obstacle that the Cowboys and the Texans could not overcome. That made it more complicated. So now Cooks is having that base salary of $18 million for 2023. So he still got that. We don't know how that's going to be offset. But right now, at least, it says the Cowboys may still be interested in Brandon Cooks. Not sure exactly what the price will be if he's going to renegotiate that deal or the Texans are finally willing to take on some of that dead money from Brandon Cooks if they trade him. But I don't know if right now they got to trade him. So they really don't have a lot of leverage. He's demanded a trade, and they have to trade him. And they really don't, at this point, when they start over with their new quarterback, they don't want a veteran Brandon Cooks in that locker room unhappy, who doesn't want to be on the squad. With that kind of money, you might as well just start over and really just take on the dead money at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a weird thing, but when you're rebuilding a team like the Texans are from such ground up, having a little bit of dead money for a few years isn't the worst thing in the world, because basically you go, all right, we're going to try and open our window in 2 years. And we open that window, if we have this dead money and we turn those into picks, and we can turn dead money into picks, and then all our dead money disappears in 2 years, and now we have a bunch of money we can spend on free agents because it was just sitting on dead money or re-signing a couple guys we need to get back in. Now we can actually make a push to go for it. It's not the end of the world in a building scenario.
Yeah, when you're where the Texans are, it's definitely not something that's debilitating.
If you can take on money for picks at this point, please take on money for picks.
I agree with that. And they're doing a good job of stockpiling picks for the next 2 years. And I think they are projecting their window, like right now, projecting their window maybe to be in 2025 or 2026.
Yeah, and that's all completely put on how the quarterback they draft works out.
And how you got to hit on these draft picks. You can't just have them. You got to hit on them. But if they hit on them and they hit on the quarterback, they think their window might be 2025, because this draft and then the next draft, those are drafts where they're stockpiling.
Yeah.
All their young players.
Or if you can believe half of reports right now that the Texans are not even going to take a quarterback.
Well, the silly season.
I know. And it's funny because half of reports are like, of course they're going to trade up and get the number one pick and take the quarterback they want. And the other reports are like, oh, they're not trading up and they're going to get a defensive lineman. And you're like, dude, Texans, I swear. And like, I'm not even there again. But you did it twice where you passed on quarterbacks to take defensive linemen.
Yeah. They did.
And how did that work out for you? It never did it? It's never worked out. So stop doing it.
And
I get the whole concept of, hey man, we got to build from lines out. But when the fact is, well, we have this one thing that's a Fabergé egg, and this other thing that's an egg. We can get other eggs. You can't get other Fabergé eggs.
Well,
There's one that is very, very valuable. You can't get top of the line, grade A, top perfect eggs. You're not going to get that game-changing defensive lineman, but you can get a lot of good linemen. You're not getting Joey Bosa. You can get the rest of the 49ers D-line.
No, what really traumatized?
You traded one of them to him.
No, it traumatized the Texans when they drafted David Carr, and he became the most sacked quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah.
And from then on, they basically became a little bit, gun shy, if you will, about drafting quarterbacks with all those picks. But really
that's also because you put Tony Baselli as the first pick in the expansion draft, and he never played for you.
And they got obsessed with, you know what, we're going to stockpile pass rushers. And, which I'm with you. I think you should always just try to find the quarterback first. That's the toughest job. Find the quarterback first. But everything else is easier.
Well, and, hey, let's draft that lineman. And then in like 2 or 3 years, we'll draft that quarterback. You're like, cool. You have the 14th pick now. You don't get that quarterback anymore. So now you're taking a swing in the dark at pick 14 for a quarterback that may be great or he may be garbage, and you're just going to have to figure it out. Like, you very rarely get a chance to take a top quarterback. You very rarely get that top 3 pick. And if you're building on D-line, your hope is that you're not going to be the worst team in the league anymore.
Yeah, no, it's too much of a premium position, and the Texans, they're obviously going to draft a quarterback. If they don't, at this point, people will ride in that city if they don't draft a quarterback, especially with DeMeco Ryans being the new guy. I have full faith that at least they'll be competent enough as an organization to use their top pick or most of their draft capital or move it up in the draft to get the quarterback they want. If they don't, I'll be like Patrick. I'll renounce my fandom. I'll be having a fandom free agency coming up next year. All right, real quick, while we got some time here, because I want to get to this Dallas Cowboys story. Well, it's not really a story. It's just really a subject more than anything. The Dallas Cowboys keep referring to the 20 to 30 to 35% of the playbook that is going to change. Michael Gehlken, he tweeted out, Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy said he thinks OC Kellen Moore did an excellent job and a complementary nature of the offense improved. He believes change is healthy every few years. He also said, quote, I've just felt this was a good time to make that change. About 30 to 35% change for players. Same language. He also, or at least Mike McCarthy must have told Dak Prescott the same thing, or at least they're thinking along the same lines, because Dak Prescott told Yahoo Sports, I think, if anything, It's that things need to be changed. It's great to dial in, fix some things, get sharper and crisper. I'm excited. Right now, Mike told me about 20 to 30% change of the offense. And then Stephen Jones, executive vice president, when he was asked about how much of the offense is going to change from Kellen Moore being the play caller to Mike McCarthy, he said he agreed with most of what Kellen Moore wanted to do on offense, but he says that Mike McCarthy thinks about 15 to 20% of the offense needed to change. In his mind, we can be better. We can take the next step on offense, get to the next level. So 20 to 30% of the offense, somewhere in that range. So I started thinking to myself, all right, so what does that entail and what does that actually mean? So based on Brian Schottenheimer becoming the new OC and Mike McCarthy's play calling trends and tendencies and some of the patterns that you kind of recognize from Mike McCarthy's play calling days, here is a start of what I think the 20 to 30% is going to be. So the Cowboys run a ton of hitch routes. You'll probably notice if you're a Cowboys fan, you're probably upset about all the damn hitch routes they run. It makes their passing game a lot easier to defend because they run a lot of what they call stop routes. Coach Sark hates stop routes. He's a big movement route guy. Two types of routes: movement routes, stop routes. Movement routes, self-explanatory. They're on the move, right? Non-stationary targets. And Dak under Kellen Moore, there are a lot of stationary targets. Him throwing to a receiver that's open instead of throwing a receiver open. Throwing to a open receiver rather than throwing a receiver open, which is what I think Brian Schottenheimer wants Dak to do in this new offense, is to throw receivers open rather than throwing to an open receiver all the time. So with movement routes, so shallow crossers, spears and overs and unders and drives, China passing concepts, as they call them. So you'll see that's a little bit. I don't know if that's going to be all your 30%, but that's a little bit of it. Brian Schottenheimer also, in 3 years with Seattle, he loves the play-action pass. He is known for being a play-action pass game extraordinaire, as a matter of fact. 3 years in Seattle, their play-action pass rate was 8th in that time span, nearly 30% play-action pass rate. That's extremely high. Dak, as we've all talked about ad nauseum, I can go over the numbers here because every Cowboys fan knows at this time, Dak is much more effective with play action than without. As a matter of fact, down near every quarterback is much more effective with play action than without. It's a cheat code and a force multiplier for them. Brian Schottenheimer also, 51% run rate on first down. The Cowboys had 57% run rate on first down. He'd rather throw it on first down, early down pass rate. Mike McCarthy led the NFL in early down pass rate from 2010 to 2018. Now, it helps when you got Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, but still, that's one of his tendencies. He wants to throw the ball on early downs. Now, I know that's a little bit and the antithesis, really pretty much, of what he talked about, wanting to run the ball more, but I think that could be more of a miscommunication. I think they mean they want to run the ball better. They want to be more effective running the ball, not they want to run the ball more. They don't need to run the ball more. They need to run the ball better. You go look at the Cowboys' offensive drives, and 28% of their offensive drives in 2022 were run, pass. The most predictable sequence in a drive. Run, pass. And that was they had the third highest rate of run, pass offensive drives in the NFL. 10th highest rate of 3 and outs. They can't be the case. And I think a lot of that is because they started Cooper Rush. So, that's 5 games right there of Cooper Rush and them trying to dial back the offense for a backup quarterback. I get that. But in 2022, when Dallas passed the ball on first down, they had the second highest down set conversion rate behind Kansas City when they threw the ball on first down. But when they ran the ball on first down, they dropped all the way down to 22nd in down set conversion rate. So I don't care what Mike McCarthy says. You can't just be running the ball on first down. You can have an extension of the running game. You can have easy completions, high percentage passes on first down, but you can't just be bogged down running the ball on first down unless you got a beast, a Derrick Henry in the backfield, maybe a Bijan in the backfield. Who knows? Brian Schottenheimer also is a big advocate of inside zone running schemes. Cowboys prefer the outside zone right now. He likes the inside zone running scheme. When he was with Seattle, 41% of their runs were inside zone, third highest rate in the NFL. The Cowboys in 2022 only ran inside zone 19% of the time. That was 19th most in the NFL at 20%. So they're probably going to run a lot more inside zone. They're going to have a lot more movement routes instead of the hitch routes and the stop routes. Play action pass rates are going to increase exponentially. And I know he wants to run the ball more, but I think he wants to run the ball more effectively. I think you're going to get higher early down, first down pass rates from the Cowboys. I don't know if that's the 30%. I don't know if that encompasses all the 30% the offense is going to change, but I think those are some of the key changes that you will see from the new look Dallas Cowboys offense. All right, we come back. We got Texas basketball conversation to get to. Texas versus Kansas. We'll dive into that a little bit and discuss tournament seeding for the Longhorns in the Big 12 tourney, but also in the Big Dance. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104 Down the Horn. It is a 512 Friday. We play jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings who you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the Dizzy Bangers, and they're playing Saturday at Valhalla.
The Dizzy Bangers. It's another winner right there. I like that band name. Go to hornfm.com and you can actually get caught up with any of the selections you might have missed on 512 Friday. You can check them out there and you can look cool in front of all of your friends. Act like you know all the hot spots where all the very talented up-and-coming musicians are going to be playing here in the ATX. Thanks to my man Patrick. All right, let's get into the Texas basketball preview here just a little bit. There's been a lot of talk about this. First of all, the seeding in the Big 12 tournament for Texas, but also Texas's seeding in the Big Dance and the projections for the, as Craig Way likes to call them, the bracketological prognostications for Texas as well. Right now, in terms of the bracketological prognostications, everybody still pretty much has Texas as a 2 seed.
Yeah. I mean, this is based on they beat Kansas
right now.
So you're beating Kansas, who right now is a 1 seed.
Yeah.
So if you win that game, you're a 2 seed beating a 1 seed. So that means you're still right in that ballpark.
Yeah.
And then you go and perform well enough and win 2 games in the Big 12 tournament. You don't have to win the Big 12 tournament. You have to win 2 games in it.
You got to represent.
Because you probably drop to a 3 if you get dropped out by a much worse, not much worse, but a worse.
Yeah, lower
seed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because basically the prognosticators, they respect the Big 12 because losing back-to-back games in the Big 12 didn't hurt you because you lost to good teams in back-to-back games in the Big 12.
Yeah, and the fact you didn't lose 2 games to a lot of these teams in the Big 12. You split a lot of series, but you weren't getting beat twice by a team. That's a big thing as well.
That's a good point. And so Jerry Palm, Joe Lunardi, Fox Sports, USA Today still have Texas 2 seed, but as Patrick mentioned, you gotta close out the season really strong.
And this, again, you just had your first back-to-back loss. You haven't lost a series to anyone this season. Kansas will be the first. So you could have a 3-game losing streak and have your first team beat you twice. All not great looks in the season.
And to start March.
So
yeah. I think right now for Texas in the Big 12 tournament. So right now, how does it work with the tiebreakers and everything? I know there's a ton of them. You got 3 teams that are 11-6 in Big 12 play.
Yes.
Right now, that would be because Kansas has the best record, of course. It's Kansas, they're 13-4. But then you got Kansas State, Baylor, and then Texas all at 11-6. And then the tiebreakers come in. Who beat whom and all that kind of stuff. Who has the head-to-head and all that advantage.
And
which
so,
I got to tell you, have not calculated just yet.
So as far as I could tell, and I may be off on one of these, but basically everyone went 1-1 with Kansas. So it takes out the equation of going 1-1 against a better team. Against each other, everybody went 1-1, except Kansas State beat Baylor twice.
Which is crazy, actually.
So Kansas State beat Baylor twice, which means that they will jump ahead of when you're doing it of what team versus team ratings against all 3 teams. Kansas State takes the lead on that one. Then Texas would go behind Baylor, I believe, because it would fall into that they have one more loss because they lost to K-State twice, right?
Yep.
So that would be in the 3. I believe we would hit in the 3 seed. If K-State wins and we win, then we can actually beat then the K-State will be the 2 seed, we will be the 3 seed, because it would fall to who has a better record against the next highest team in descending order. So it would be Kansas, and then it would go to Baylor, who K-State once again beat twice. But that works in your favor versus Texas and Baylor, that if Texas and Baylor are tied, K-State loses. I believe it would go down to K-State, who Baylor has lost to twice. We beat them once, so then we would jump Baylor. I believe that's how I read it.
Man.
Now, I'm not an expert on any of this. I read this earlier today, so I think that's basically if we're looking at we could be up to a 2 seed. And if we win, our 2 seed is if we win and they both lose, or if we win and K-State loses. I think we can still get a 2 seed. If K-State wins, we are not the 2 seed.
Man, my headache is starting. I got a little.
That's from all the stuff. If I was looking through it, I know our buddy Jeff Howe had been looking through it this week, and he was like, "Are you trying to go through every possible scenario?" And it's crazy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure if K-State wins, and both teams will play before Texas, so Texas will know going into their game, or at least we as fans will know going into the game, what our possible outcomes are.
Oh, they'll know.
because it's an 11 o'clock game and a 1 o'clock game going into it. Also not looking great for Texas. Clearly, Texas playing the best team. You're playing the best team in the Big 12 with Kansas, and so that is not great when you're trying to go up against a Iowa State team. Baylor plays Iowa State, who has let go one of their players who's been hurt.
I saw that story.
And they've been not playing great down the end stretch. And West Virginia, who has not been a great team this year. Kansas State, that is who they're playing. So it's a Big 12. Anything is possible.
Yeah.
But odds would say Texas would be lucky to have a 3 seed, is what odds would say.
Yeah, based on how the matchups to close out the season.
Yes. But if you lose, you're probably all the way down to 4, which you really don't want to hit.
Yeah, and then like you said, you got to win a couple of games in the Big 12 tournament.
And that's the thing is if you're 4 seed, that means you are now playing the 1 seed in the 2 game, which means you're playing Kansas again most likely, and you would have to then play Kansas right away again and have to go up against that again. Oh, on the road.
Yeah, and there is no easy matchups in the Big 12 anyway, so the Big 12 tournament is going to be either way. It's going to end up being a tough first round game. Especially if your seeding is at 4, it's definitely going to be a tough first round matchup.
Yes,
the Big 12 is going to be tough.
Any game's going to be tough.
Any game's going to be tough.
Everything except for those, like the Thursday. If you could play one of those teams that's going to be playing on Wednesday, the lower seeds that play on Wednesday to get into the 8 seed bracket, then yes, we could beat we could beat Oklahoma again.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think this team has a lot to play for because at this point they lost their first back-to-back games of the season, and I think this team has been resilient all year long. That's one thing we can say about them. They bounced back really well. That's why they haven't lost back-to-back games. I'm expecting a hell of a bounce-back performance from Texas at home too. And even Rodney Terry said he's like, honestly, the truth is we're just a different team. I heard him say it on Low and Weekly. We're a different team at home. He said every Big 12 team's a different team at home. They're just way better. And I want to see that, I want to see that in that game versus Kansas. I'd like to see Texas bounce back and have a really strong performance and go into the postseason with some confidence because right now they can't be very confident going into the postseason.
No, and it's you want to see them with that sense of urgency for 40 minutes. And we know there's going to be a lax because it's basketball. Even good teams have laxes.
Yeah,
You're playing a really good Kansas team. But you want to see the urgency come out and not have to play catch-up for the entire first half to then go into the second half where now you're having to, all right, well, we're in the game. We got to come back or we're down. Just go ahead and take it and then try and play that style of basketball.
I'm with you, man. I'm going to coming out with their hair on fire with a bunch of intensity. That's what I will expect. Now, whether they win or lose, I'm not sure because Kansas is one of the best teams in the country. But if I don't see the team come out with a ton of intensity and a sense of urgency to start that game, I'm going to be very disappointed. I won't be disappointed in a loss because
if Kansas comes out with more energy than Texas.
To start the game.
Because Kansas has no reason to care other than they're playing Texas.
It's pride for them.
They don't care. They can lose this game and still get a 1 seed.
I agree with you.
Because they're playing a really good Texas team.
Exactly.
So they can go on and then win the Big 12 tournament, and they win both conference tournaments. They won everything. This game doesn't mean as much to them. Now, they're going to try and win it because they're a good basketball team, and that's what good basketball teams do. But if you can't have more urgency than someone who doesn't even need the win, when you desperately really need to turn this around before you get to postseason play?
After back-to-back losses?
Back-to-back loss, first time this year?
Yeah.
Hey, Kansas beat you at Kansas?
Yeah.
You don't want that retribution? I need to see that urgency.
Exactly. That's what I'll be disappointed in. So we'll see. But I think Texas is going to come out with a ton of intensity. That's what I'm expecting Saturday when they face the Kansas Jayhawks. We come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104 on the Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie. Right to the outro because we're right up against it. Before we get out of here, I will remind everybody, you miss any part of any of the shows, please go to hornfm.com. You can catch up with them on the podcast page just right there. Also, I want to thank all you guys for joining us today. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on Ball Don't Lie. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Have a great weekend. Peace.